If everyone will please join me and stand if you can. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I have no condolences this evening, but I will ask folks if they will give a moment of silence for all of our veterans that have passed, for those across the country. Thank you. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda this evening is an approval of minutes. I will take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made
Point of
by-
order. I had submitted some documents to Deborah Ward to be admitted into the minutes, and they are not here in the minutes. So I would like to make an amendment to the minutes that those documents be included.
All right, let's give it one moment. So I have a motion by Council Lindy and a second by Councilor Spagone, and it's for discussion. Councilor Ellenberg, you have a motion, but let's wait until Town Council Clerk gets a moment. Councilor Ellenberg?
Yes, I read 2 letters into the record last week, or last meeting, rather, and I had asked for them to be in the record, and they are not currently in the minutes, so I would like an amendment to the minutes that will include this.
They will be in the minutes. They're in the packet on my desk to be put with when they go online, but I will make sure.
Yeah, so do you want to make the motion just to confirm?
Yeah, motion to include the minutes in the, or, excuse me, include those letters in the minutes.
And do we have a second?
Second.
All those,
Just a point of clarification. I think minutes are a record of the meeting, and letters are attachments to the minutes. So I'm just not, I've had people read things into minutes before on bodies that I've served on, but those are not the minutes of the meeting. The minutes should, in my opinion, should reflect that 2 letters were read into the record, but they are not actual minutes of the meeting. I know we don't have counsel here to rule on that, but that's just, I don't know if any other counsel would want to comment on that.
I'm happy to take additional comments. We will vote on it, and we'll go from there, and then we can take it.
Additional comments, if I may?
Yeah, let's see if there's any other comments, and then you could reply back.
I have one comment.
Councilor Trocchio.
For the reappointments,
Is this related to the amendment?
this is related to voting for these minutes.
Okay, not for the minutes. We're just seeking the
For her
amendment at the
amendment?
moment.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yes.
Were they read in? I'm sorry.
They were read in, and not 100%, because that would be too long. They were summarized for the meeting, but I would like the full letters, which have to do with our water situation, to be in the minutes, so the public can see what's going on.
Councilor Kennedy?
I would agree with Councilor Lindy, placing them as an attachment, not part of the minutes, but I do agree that they should be in with the packet. So if that'll be posted online, I mean, that would work for me. But I think that they should be attached, but not within the minutes themselves, because they are, as Councilor Lindy said, a record of the meeting and discussion. That's my take on it.
May I amend my amendment, that they be an attachment?
Would you like to make that amendment?
I would.
Okay, do I have a second to that?
Second.
Second
And
discussion.
just a question too. Was it mentioned at the last meeting, and is it in the minutes already that they were mentioned there? And then we're going to put them in as attachment now? Okay, that's what I wondered. I get a nod.
Thank you,
for
Mr.
an answer.
President. Watching the planning board, and they read in letters and stuff that they, residents come in or information, and they attach it. They don't put it in their minutes. They always say it's attached.
Okay.
So if we follow that, like Council Lindy said.
Any further discussion? Okay, so we've taken a vote on the amendment to attach the 2 letters to the minutes for last meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Any additional discussion on the minutes?
I have a discussion item. So for the reappointments, specifically for Ms. McDonald, both Counselor Ellenberg and I voted no, and these are reflected as yes. So this was a 7-2 vote.
So motion to amend.
I'd like to make a motion to amend.
Second.
Motion's been made and a second. Debbie, were you able to get that? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Any additional comments, questions on the minutes? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor to approve the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Motion passes 9-0. Okay, moving on to B, announcements from the president. I have one announcement this evening, and I'd like to ask members of the 4th of July committee to come forward. Some good news to share this evening. Thank you all for being here tonight, and I know amongst other commitments that you have, so we'll make it quick for you. But the town council's worked with the town staff and the town administration, and we have decided to award the 4th of July committee $25,000 donation from the Lepecki Family Trust that was gifted to the town for the purposes of the 4th of July, amongst other things. So in commemoration with the 250th anniversary, we came to the conclusion that the $25,000 would be the donation for this year for all the work that you do and to keep our celebration going. So thank you all for that.
Thank you. Keith would have been here, but he's currently let me skip out of another meeting we're in. And that $25,000 is huge. This year, we are not even at our halfway point, and we're less than 2 weeks out. So it's been a huge challenge, but we do very much appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm kind of speechless. That doesn't happen with me very often, so.
Thank you all for what you do. And for folks watching at home, please continue to give if you can, or please continue to show up for the events that this great committee does. It's 100% done from the ground up from these great folks, and Bridgewater has one of the best celebrations, I think, in the state. And so want to keep that going, especially in hard times, and especially for the 250th year. So thank you all for what you do.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Okay, keeping with the positives, we will go on to proclamations. So we have one proclamation this evening, and I will hand that over to Councilor Hunt to walk us through.
Thank you. This is for our friend and longtime worker here in Bridgewater, Harry Bailey, who's in the front row. Harry, do you want to stand at the podium and I'll bring this to you? So let me tell you why you're getting applause. For Harry E. Bailey Jr., proclamation. Whereas Harry E. Bailey Jr. moved to Bridgewater in 1979, and whereas Harry dedicated many years of volunteer service to the town, serving on numerous boards, committees, and community organizations, and whereas Harry was an original member of the Community Preservation Committee when it was established in 2006, then served as chair for 2 years, and remained an active member for nearly 2 decades. Whereas Harry joined the Taunton River Stewardship Council in 2010 as Bridgewater's representative and served on the council for more than 16 years, eventually assuming leadership role as vice chair and chair. And whereas Harry served as a member of the Bridgewater Conservation Commission from 2010 through 2026, working diligently to protect Bridgewater's open spaces and uphold the laws safeguarding wetlands and natural resources. And whereas Harry volunteered at the Bridgewater Transfer Station beginning in 2009, when the town transitioned to volunteer operations, and remained a dedicated and familiar presence there through 2006. And whereas Harry's commitment, leadership, and willingness to serve have made lasting and positive impacts on the town of Bridgewater and its residents, now therefore be it resolved that the Bridgewater Town Council hereby expresses its sincere gratitude and appreciation to Harry E. Bailey Jr. for his many years of dedicated, selfless, and tireless service to the town of Bridgewater, and extends its best wishes for continued health, happiness, and success in all future endeavors, witnessed by the entirety of the town council here. And I'm going to come give it to you, Harry.
I'd like to thank everybody very much. I'm still at the transfer station, by the way. I left everything else. I had some medical problems that I had to take care of, so I'm back. But I'm living in another town, so I'll do the best I can while I'm still here. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hunt. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. At this time, we will move to Citizens Open Forum. So due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods. Anyone may comment for up to 3 minutes, and remember to please state your name and address prior to speaking. Thank you.
Constance Franchosi, 675 Curve Street. First of all, the library trustees and I would like to thank Councilor Spagone, Councilor Trucchio, and Councilor Lindy for their resolutions at the last council meeting requesting that the town manager explore opportunities for additional funding for the library in the upcoming budget. We would also like to thank all of the councilors for supporting and passing the unified resolution in this regard. We look forward to the town manager's report later this evening. Over the last several meetings, you have heard numerous individuals speak on behalf of the library and what it means to you personally, to them personally. For parents of young children, for those choosing to homeschool their youngsters, for teens, for those of us who are well beyond our formal school days, and numerous others, the library is a vital resource and lifeline to meeting our individual needs. Should the proposed cuts go through, access to that resource, that lifeline, will be severely curtailed. Like you, the trustees are elected by the citizens of Bridgewater. When you are elected, you have numerous responsibilities that you take on, and we respect that. Unlike you, however, we have one fiduciary duty, and that is to act in the best interest of the library and ensure that the citizens of Bridgewater have the right and means to free and open access for information and ideas. The current budget crisis for FY 2027 and the anticipated crisis of FY 2028 endangers that mission. The town budget does not support the library sufficiently to maintain state accreditation. Loss of that accreditation will result in the loss of additional funds, services, and staffing. And just to remind folks, Bridgewater has been down that road before of decertification, and it is a long and arduous process to regain certification. The board recognizes that other town departments are also suffering. However, our duty, our sole duty, is to speak on behalf and act on behalf of the library. Therefore, as trustees, we must speak out in favor and openness to any and all proposed plans that increase the library's chances of avoiding decertification. We implore the counselors to also continue their efforts to adequately fund the library. With that in mind, this coming Saturday, June 20th, there will be a standout in support of the library. It will be held from 10 to 11 a.m. in front of the library or in the general area if the long-awaited improvements to the columns is taking place. We invite all residents to come in support of our library. Bring your family members, your friends, your signs, your voice, but most of all, your enthusiasm to support the great community lifeline and resource that we have in the Bridgewater Public Library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Oliari. I live at 10 Stony Brook Drive in Bridgewater. I want to thank Chair Franciosi for speaking so eloquently. I feel a little sad following her because she's an amazingly eloquent woman. I stand as her vice chair on the Library Board of Trustees. I understand right now we're in a very difficult place. We need to find ways to come together, and the last thing we want to do is look at departments fighting against each other. So what I want to ask the council to look at is how can we get creative to find answers that leave the town of Bridgewater with as many services as possible so we have a chance to find a long-term solution, which isn't one we're going to come up with tonight. Decertification will mean an incredible hit to this town. It will cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it back, and our first chance to even try to get it back will be fiscal year 29. That's the first time we can try. However, there are some things we can look at. Yes, in a perfect world, we would like $100,000. That would make it so that we can get certified this year without a waiver. That would be wonderful. I understand that's an incredibly big ask. So I'd like us to think of some other solutions. I'd like to look at the fact that we did have an archivist that retired this year. We did budget that position for the entirety of the year. I believe we have about $25,000 not getting spent on salary this year because our archivist left. I would respectfully ask the town council to consider leaving that money in the library's line for salaries. I'd also like the council to look at where we are putting money in the line items for the budget for the library. The MBLC, where we have to go to get our waiver, really looks very closely at how we're funding salaries. If we fund that with state aid, which is completely legal, they do not like it. They've been very open, they do not like it. We are going to be going for a waiver for the second year in a row. That means we are behind everyone that's going for their first waiver, and there will be a lot of towns. There are a lot of people in our position. So we start behind all of them. And if we're doing something we know is going to be a red flag, that means we are asking for them to kick us out. They will not approve every waiver. They have a right to tell us no. If we do that, we've gone for a waiver, we've spent all of this money in different ways, and we get nothing. Our state aid goes away. I'd ask that we look at taking money that has already been allocated to the library in the budget, and can we fully fund our salary line? If we do that, we can look at getting donations from townspeople who want to help the library. We can use that money for programs. We can use that money for materials, other things we do need. But we will put Director Phillips in a stronger place to make an argument for a waiver if that is what we need. We need to make it so that Director Phillips and our town manager, Mr. Casanova Davis, can go to the MBLC in Boston with the strongest case they can make for this town and show that while the town can't provide everything it needs, it is finding every creative solution to support what we have. That Bridgewater is doing everything that we can. That puts our library on life support. That gives our library a seat at the table when you all have the task of finding ways to make this better and for us to get behind that. We'd like the library to be existing so we can be a part of that discussion. So I'd ask you to just look at options that are there, options that don't require additional funds, but options that allow us to put in the strongest position we can for a waiver and keep a very important asset to our town. Thank you.
Good evening, Janet Hanson, Pleasant Street. I want to speak about the current water situation, a couple of things too. Everyone needs to remember, everyone needs to remember, we and the rest of Massachusetts are in a level 2 significant drought situation. Drought means prolonged period of abnormally dry weather that causes serious water shortages which can affect water supplies. Hydrologic drought refers to the effect of the precipitation shortages on water supply infrastructures resulting in below average levels in the streams, reservoirs, lakes, ponds, and groundwater tables. Everyone, everywhere, needs to be mindful of their water usage. It does not matter how you feel about the town's management of the water. That's being worked on. What does matter is we need to deal with it now. That means keep investigating concerns, but everyone needs to help with the water shortage now by not misusing water. We have had bans in place for years at some point or another, including during selectman years. Problem is, nothing was majorly done about the water issues, nothing specifically looking into the future. Nothing was done to stop irresponsible growth. The current town council and town manager are facing this crisis now, despite not having a hand leading up to this current situation. These issues did not happen overnight. 2 town managers and many town councilors before this were in charge, before this new council and town manager came to be. This has been a long-time issue, and they are now having to deal with the previous council and manager's negligence. Lots have been accomplished in less than 1 year. Still have a way to go, but things have been getting done a lot faster than it was in the past, though it may not seem like it. Lots of towns are facing water shortages. It's not special to Bridgewater. Every town but one has mandatory water restrictions in some form. Even if water infrastructure was handled the same way it should have been, we would still need to slow down water use due to the level 2 drought and issues with our 4 wells. I hear some people say, I pay for the water, so I'm going to use it. To me, that's selfish and ignorant. We are in a drought, and we are in a severe water shortage due to issues with our infrastructure and lack of rain. Do not use the water unless absolutely necessary. So what if your lawn isn't lush green? Think of it this way, you don't have to mow it. So hopefully, with having the water crisis, it will push the town to have building moratorium and water hookup moratoriums and keep them in place until things settle down. We cannot keep going on with building without planning for the future. One question, are the sewers able to handle the influx of building? Are they okay? There hasn't been much mention of that directly. This would be a good one for the town manager to address at the next meeting. DFY 22-007 term limits. I'm in favor of this. Having been on the previous CRC, it's been way too long for it to come before the town council for the final approval. Was the delay from the state legislature, or was it from the previous town council delaying getting it to the state? Same with the DFY 22-009. Glad to see it coming from the state finally, but it only took 5 years. So who's at fault? Was it town council or the state? And finally, 0FY 26-078. I agree with this. It helps everyone realize what the CRC is limited to while reviewing the charter. CRC is in charge of reviewing the charter only and making recommendations on each section of it. They are not in charge of recommending a change in government, so give them a break. And I support the funding of the library. What else can I say? That we need the library. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. Sam Baumgarten, 60 Short Street. I just want to comment on 3 events that took place in the last 2 weeks. 2 flag raisings and Juneteenth at Bridgewater State, all of which were powerfully positive for our community. And I urge you to watch the videos if you were unable to attend. Some of the powerful things were statements by our own town manager, who gave a very strong, welcoming address at both of the flag raisings. President Clark from Bridgewater State, who once again stated powerfully his support for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the example that Bridgewater State University sets for us. Powerful speaking by Bridgewater Raynham students, both at the Pride Flag and the Juneteenth. They were eloquent, meaningful, and I certainly, again, urge you to watch them if you weren't able to be there. And then finally, I wanted to share a few words from a new member of BCCR who was attending his first flag raising. And right after the Pride flag went up, he took a picture of the two flags flying. And he said, right after the flag was raised, the wind picked up. I decided to take a picture of the flags flying. And at that moment, I stopped in my tracks. The picture itself may be nothing, but what it represents was an epiphany for me. And he went on to describe about the importance of the United States flag and its colors and stars and stripes. But the epiphany, he said, was that it's the flag below that really mattered, the Pride flag, which explicitly represents and celebrates diversity, that same diversity referred to in the American flag, that symbolism, that same diversity, the very foundation of our nation. So it was the importance of the second flag that makes the first flag meaningful as well. He said America would not have managed to become such a wonderfully powerful nation if we had not taken advantage of diversity. And then finally, he goes on to say that the same thing would happen this week with the flying of the Juneteenth flag. It's that flag underneath the American flag, which is the welcoming, inclusive symbol. And I know many people have said, oh, the American flag takes care of everything. It doesn't. It still doesn't. It's the other people that we need to take care of and include. So my one hope as we go forward, I'm sure we'll continue to ask the council to support us. My hope is that next year it'll be a unanimous support from the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none?
Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hi. My name is Sarah Cumlin. I live at 54 Sunrise Drive. I've been living here since 2019, so about, 7 years? Yes. Oh my gosh. I have 2 kids. One of them just wrapped up at the Mitchell. The other one's wrapping up at the Williams. We're pretty settled here. I didn't prepare anything. It's actually the first time I get involved, and I'm really inspired by our local politics and seeing some of my neighbors here come and speak up their minds. I was in a little late, but there's a bunch of families out there that are also supporting the funding on the library. We're out there with signs. People are honking their horns, and I didn't see anyone in here, so just wanted to make sure that was known and represented, that not only the handful of people that are here speaking are supporting the funding of the library, but also there's many of us out there that are not in this room right now. So just wanted to share that. The library is a lifeline. I think it's the future, you know, it's where I go with my kids, at least weekly. I have an avid reader that I want to continue supporting. Doesn't make sense to be buying, like, we like use this and we love it. So hopefully our word's been heard today, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Zoe Pigeon, 211 Flag Street. The library is a very important place in our community because not only do a lot of teens go to the library after school or during the weekend to get schoolwork done or help tutor younger kids, but it's also a place where the community goes to gather and do many events like the raising of the pride flag and like celebrate holidays and traditions. It's also where kids can go and get education. They can read books, become educated, learn things, reach out and connect to their community. If we don't have funding for that, kids and adults and families lose access to that. And it's a very important thing for our community to have. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rachel Nickerson, 1776 South Street here in Bridgewater. I wasn't going to get up tonight and talk, but I thought I would just for a moment. I'm a homeschooling mom of 3, and my kids, if I were to say they're readers, that would be an exaggeration because we check out hundreds of books through the library every year. And last year was kind of a big deal because we had a medical issue in our family, and it was thanks to the library and the certification that we have through the sales network where we're able to put things on hold, where we were not physically able to go into the library, but we could put books on hold and then be able to grab them. And because my kids are such readers, they go through what Bridgewater has pretty quick, but it was thanks to that it was one of the many things that helped hold our family together. And I don't know how I could say thank you for that to the library. Another thing is I wanted to share is 2 years ago, I don't know if I said we're a homeschooling family, but we homeschool and we go on a lot of adventures. And 2 years ago, our adventure was to go over to 100 different libraries in 1 year. 100 wasn't the number I thought of. I was thinking we could do maybe 50, but my older daughter was like, let's do 100. And so we traveled over to 100 different libraries in our state and the surrounding states. And part of that was everything about that was amazing. We learned so much. Every library has so much to offer every community. You kind of see how it's the heart of the community in a lot of ways. But what I want to leave you with is this. We went to the first public free library in North America, and that is in Franklin, Massachusetts. I don't know if you know that before we had free libraries that people had to pay money, and you'd be in the predominant person's home in the community. There was like subscription library, but Franklin, Massachusetts is the home of our first free library, and how it started is this way. The town wanted a new church bell, and so they wrote Benjamin Franklin, and they said, hey, we're going to name our town Franklin because the town of Franklin was not called Franklin, something else. And they're like, we're going to name our town Franklin, and, to honor you, and so to show your thankfulness to us, would you, contribute to our new church bell? And Benjamin Franklin wrote back a letter, which you can still see in the Franklin Public Library, with 200 books from his own personal collection. And he said, I think that the good people of Franklin, Massachusetts would much prefer sense over sound. And so tonight, I would encourage, someone else so nicely said it, we can be creative, we can do this. We don't have to take away from our library, which is so essential to so many of us in this community. Thank you.
Okay, one more time. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to appointments. Okay, we will start with Energy Committee, Will Longo, 2629. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Spagone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Moving on to the Board of Health, Joseph Sacco, 2629. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Councilor Spagone, seconded by Councilor Lindy. Any discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to Town Council reappointment to the Finance Committee, Christopher Raymond, 2629. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Spagone, seconded by Counselor Kennedy. Any discussion? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the Elder Affairs Commission. This is a reappointment for Nick Bagus, 2026 to 2029.
So move.
Second.
Wait until I ask for a motion, please. I have Counselor Lindy, and I didn't get the second, I'm sorry. Counselor Perry. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to a reappointment, Elder Affairs Commission, Mary Lou Harding, 26 to 29. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Spagone, seconded by Counselor Hunt. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Moving on to a reappointment, Elder Affairs Commission, Robin Sherrick, 2026 to 2029. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Spagone, seconded by Counselor Lindy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to Elder Affairs Commission, Sherry Sprong, 2026 to 2029. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Made by Counselor Spagone. Do I have a second? Sorry.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Perry. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to Parks and Recreation, Thomas Era.
Riggy.
Say it.
Riggy.
Arrighi, 2026 to 2029. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Counselor Perry?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Spagone. Any discussion? Apologies for the mispronunciation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Veterans Council, Mary Lou Bogle, 2026 to 2029.
So move.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Counselor Lindy, seconded Counselor Trocchio. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to the Planning Board, Associate Member Chris Fabrowski, 2026 to 2027. One-year appointment. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Counselor Spagone, seconded.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Perry. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we made it through. Moving on to F, hearings. We have none. So we will move to license transactions. P 2026-024, granting of the Class 2 used auto dealer's license, LaBelle Service, Sales and Service. So it is now 7:41. I will open the public hearing. I will note that this public hearing was advertised in the June 5th, 2026 Enterprise, and I will ask the petitioner if they wish to give an update.
My name's Steve LaBelle, the owner of LaBelle Sales and Service. I have given some plans as far as the layout of the parking for the council to review. I'm looking to the existing property was Motor Cars International. They had a Class 2 license. I'm looking to put a Class 2 license there. I want to increase from 80 cars to 160 cars.
Thank you. I'll ask if there are any questions from the general public. Seeing none, I'll ask if anyone from the public would like to speak in favor. Seeing none, I'll ask if anybody from the public wishes to speak in opposition. Seeing none, I will ask the councilors if they have any questions. Councilor Spagone?
Councilor Perry had his hand up first. I'll let him go first.
Okay.
Perry?
Thank you, Mr. LaBelle. So as you stated, you're going from 80 to 160. Are you expanding more toward the back of that property? Because I know out front it's pretty much all parking lot there.
The existing parking, Motor Cars International did a big customer service repair. We don't expect to do much as far as repair goes. So they had their back lot filled with customer vehicles for repair. We're basically going to service our own vehicles. So we have, in the back of the building, I believe it's roughly 100 vehicles can fit. But I do have, I gave one plan to pass around if you wanted to see it, but I actually have two different ones. The one I think you have is going to show 166 parking spaces, and I have another one that's 165. So keep in mind, that doesn't include the garage that can fit approximately 22 vehicles. So if we did have service vehicles, they would be in the garage.
Thank you, I appreciate the information.
Thank you.
Councilor Spigot. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. LaBelle, thank you for coming before us tonight. I had a quick question. Are you moving your business from Bedford Street over to Pleasant Street, or is this a separate facility?
Currently, it will be a separate lot. Eventually, we will move some of that over there. We are in the process of building an O'Reilly's Auto Parts over there, and we'll still have some vehicle storage there as well. But in the interim, to answer your question, not immediately.
And a follow-up question, Mr. President. Mr. LaBelle, when do you foresee starting operations over at your new location?
At the one on 104?
Yes, sir.
As soon as we can get a permit, a license from this body, we'd like to get going.
Councilor Kennedy.
Ms. LaBelle, thanks for coming before us. So we have here, you have 80 vehicles on here, so I'm assuming those plans are the expansion, then you'll be coming back before us to expand?
This is what I'm asking for this evening, is the 160.
Okay, so we
That is there, I believe, I'm not quite sure what you're reading. The original application, we asked for 165, then we cut it back to 160.
Okay.
The current motor cars license had 80.
Okay.
That's the one you dropped off today.
No, the plan, but I thought
The
reading
plan,
from something else.
So what we have before us for your license would be 80 vehicles. That's what we're voting on and what is in front of us, and that's what I'm trying to clarify.
No, 160.
It's 160 on
Is
this
that a
paperwork,
different-
yeah. It is 160.
All right, we'll have to amend that.
I just, a question too, again, through the president, if you're all done, Mr. Kennedy.
Let me just go to Councilor McGrath first, and then I'll go to you.
Thank you, Ms. LaBelle. You said you're going to do 160 cars?
Yes.
So on page, one of the pages, I have 170 spaces plus 3 ADA spaces. Are we mending that?
Well, that includes customer parking, the 170. So we're looking for 160 vehicles for sale, and then those other spots are customer parking.
All right, are you doing motorboats too,
We do have a couple boats, yes.
and trucks?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Perry.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to our town manager. Just looking to see, I see recommendations checked off for police and fire. Is there any concerns with just that amount of vehicles on the property? Is enough space to get fire in there if there's an emergency or anything along those lines?
If I may.
We haven't heard any concern about fire apparatus fitting in there, but I think the petitioner has something to add to that.
I believe on that plan, there should be arrows that show it's approximately 25 feet in and all the way around for a fire truck.
Radius, yeah.
Yeah, to get in and go right out from the front or rear gate. There's 2 gates, so they can access the entire property.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes.
Councilor Lindy.
Through you, Mr. President, to the town manager, I'm just wondering if there's any environmental or wetlands concerns.
If they were, they would probably be addressed with Conservation Commission. There's none to my knowledge or awareness, no. Being a pre-existing business is probably nothing.
Any additional questions from councilors? Okay, you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the time is 7:47. I will now close the hearing, and I will take any motions. Councilor Kennedy.
I'm going to make a motion to amend P 2026-024. The third whereas, the request of license for 80 vehicles. I'll put this in line with the 160 in the application.
A second.
Seconded by Councilor Perry. Any additional discussion? Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Amendment passes 9-0. And now I will ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Made by
Second.
Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Spagone. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, license approved, 9-0. Thank you very much.
Good luck, Mr. LaBelle.
We will now move on to presentations. We have one presentation this evening by the Community Preservation Committee, and I will ask them to come to the podium.
Good evening. Thank you to President Murphy for the invitation to present on behalf of the Community Preservation Committee. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Gina Gasconi. I'm the chair of CPC. This is Carlton Hunt, who's the vice chair of CPC. We have a lot of information to present tonight.
Can I ask that you bring the mic closer to you so our audience and the public can hear better? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a lot of information to present tonight, so we plan to move right along. We felt there's a lot of slides. We felt they were all important. But due to time restraints, some slides, we may just hit the highlights of it and ask you to read the information on the slide yourself. You'll have an opportunity at the end to ask questions. Click. Okay, this is the content that we'll cover in the presentation. CPA law, which is Chapter 44B, CPC Preservation Committee membership, definitions, funding sources, projects completed, projects in process. We also have at the end of the packet that we're not going to go over tonight, but it's important documents that the council and others should look at when looking at what they decide on. Okay. The adoption of the CPA. Bridgewater adopted the Community Preservation Act, which is the Mass General Law 44B, in April of 2005 by a municipal ballot vote, which established a 2% surcharge in real estate taxes with exemptions, such as the first $100,000 of your property will be exempt, plus low income. And Carlton will hit more on those when we get into it. The funding for that comes from the state surcharge from the state, which is based on surcharge for registry of deeds transactions and the local 2% surcharge. And again, Carlton will address that more. CPC membership, per the statute, the committee must consist of not less than 5, not more than 9 members, 5 of which are dictated by the Mass General Law. And you can see Conservation Commission is represented by Laurie Keene, Historical Commission, David Moore, Planning Board, Pat Driscoll, Parks and Recreation, myself. Housing Authority is open right now. Those are the 5 that the state mandates. Bridgewater's ordinance also required 3 additional members appointed by the council. Open Space Committee, which is Maureen Menasian, Historic District Commission, Bill Smith. The Affordable Housing Trust was one of those 3, but in recent council proceedings, that was removed and replaced by a second at-large. Right now, since that legislation, 2 members at-large appointed by the town manager, ratified by the council, are Carlton Hunt is at-large, and the second one is in the process of being appointed. Okay, this slide shows how many cities and states, cities and towns have adopted the CPA since its inception. It's been 201 out of 351, which is roughly a 57% of the cities and towns in the state that have enacted the CPA. Can read specifics on the side, but as of this last report here, $3.7 billion of CPC funding has been spent. Not all from Bridgewater, throughout the state. Okay, housing units created were 15,600. The square miles in Bridgewater, and I'll let Colin comment on this because I'll probably...
Yeah, the state tracks things in acres. So there's been 39,860 acres. I grew up for square miles. We talk about that. So I converted that into 62 square miles of statewide property. It's been preserved as open space, and that's and Bridgewater's 2.2 square miles, and that's 3.5% of the state's open space preservation. I think we're doing a good job.
Thanks. And 8,100 historic preservation projects have gone through the CPA.
Why is it not moving?
Oh, right here. Okay, there are slides of basics that CPCs have to abide by, as set by the state. There's 4 pots, can call them buckets. I usually just call them pots. Open space, historic recreation, and housing. But not everything for those areas can be improved. We have verbs on the side: acquire, create, preserve, support, rehabilitate, restore. I'm going to turn it over to Carlton now, and he can elaborate on the different projects.
Thank you, Gina. Moving on. Moving on. I'm going to use this. This is definitions from the Mass General laws, and I'm not going to read all of them, but the open space is land to protect existing and future well fields, aquifers, recharge areas, watershed, forested lands, fresh and saltwater marshes, ocean, rivers, streams, lakes, ponds, frontage, beaches, dunes, and other coastal lands. So this is all land protection, including scenic vistas. Scenic vistas are oftentimes all the stone walls that you see along highways or roadways, especially here in Bridgewater. Historic resources, basically buildings, structures, vessels, real property, documents, artifacts, but they must be listed on the state registry, or the local Historic Preservation Commission must declare them as significant to the history, archaeology, and architecture culture of the town. So those are the definitions we live by. Recreational land, it's land for active or passive recreation. Uses include, but not limited to, community gardens, trails, non-commercial youth and adult sports, and the use of land as a park ground, playground, athletic field. We'll talk about some of those projects in a minute. Community housing is an important one. It's housing for low and moderate income individuals and families that include low and moderate income seniors. Moderate income is less than 100%, and low income is less than 80% of the state area-wide median income. So those are definitions. Now we're going to talk about the verbs. It's important. Acquisition is obvious: to obtain, to get interest in, to purchase, or otherwise. Creation is to bring into being or cause to exist. That's why under historic preservation, creation is no. Things have to be at least 50 years old by the State Historic Commission to be considered historic. Creation, preservation is protection of personal or real property from harm, injury, or destruction. Support is basically one category, and that's housing. And that was added in 2012, I believe, that it's to support, and it has a number of things. We can CPA funds can be used for grants, loans, rental assistance, security deposits, interest rate write-downs, directly to individuals and families who are eligible for community housing, or an entity that owns, operates, and manages such housing for the purpose of making housing affordable. Big issue in Massachusetts right now. Rehabilitation restoration is basically make capital improvements and repairs to make existing assets functional for this intended use. Must comply with all state, federal, and local requirements. An example is CPC can recommend CPA funds to be appropriated by the town council, which, by the way, we can only recommend. The council appropriates the funds by the town to upgrade historic building systems to modern building codes. Moving on, who's eligible to receive funds? Government entities, all the town entities, and 501c3 nonprofit organizations. We're cautioned to do, in terms of funding non-incorporated entities and individual landowners. CPA funds cannot be used to supplant funds. That's basically providing funds for something that's already funded by the town with another account. And the other one is we cannot pay for maintenance programs. We can only restore and rehabilitate. Moving on to property tax. It's funded by a surcharge, as Gina mentioned, with exceptions, and importantly, the state CPA trust fund match. This is just from the state web pages. Bridgewater exempts the first $100,000 of appraised value of Class 1 residential parcels. In other words, if your parcel is appraised at $500,000, you only get the surcharge on $400,000. And there's other exemptions such as low income, we've mentioned that. But to get the exemption, a property owner must own it and occupy the domicile. And these are the definitions about low income and housing. The issue there is the taxpayer must show financial hardships and meet specific eligibility requirements through an exemption to the application. Owner-occupied domiciles, please work with the town appraiser because that's where you enter into this exemption. Excuse me. Somebody asked a question.
Not yet, Paul.
Somebody asked a question about, well, what's the impact to the taxpayer? So I asked the town finance department, thank you, Lori, a year and a half ago to put together something that looked at the assessed value of an average in Bridgewater, state average, Bridgewater residential high assessment like $1 million, a low assessment like $350,000, and somebody that's assessed at $2.2 million. The tax bill without the surcharge is on the column, on the second column. If you subtract out the $100,000 exemption, the annual CPA charge for a residential average assessment in Bridgewater is $117. The total tax bill then comes to be $7,144, and effectively, that CPA surcharge on that taxpayer is 1.64% because of the exemption. I'm not going to go any further with this because it's in the PowerPoint. It will be posted online. I will point out, though, the low residential assessment, that homeowner, house owner, only pays 1.4% overall, whereas a high assessed value, $2 million, is closer to the 2%. So nobody actually pays 2% on all of their taxes. Only the value after $100,000 is removed. So we get a surcharge report from the town, files it with the Department of Revenue, and this is from 2025 fiscal year. The total surcharge committed by the town to collect was $1.001 million. We had some abatements that we just talked about. Those abatements for the current year and prior year surcharges were about $10,000. What that does is provide us with the raised funds for that fiscal year, and that year was $991,519. So that's the number that we actually put into the accounts that we can actually use to fund these projects. Moving on quickly, the chart shows how we divide up our money. You guys will, council will be voting on our proposed FY27 budget later today. Basically, the law requires us to set aside 10% on community housing, open space and recreation, and historic preservation of our estimated income for the fiscal year. The chart shows that, and 5% goes to an administrative account, which enables this, and we'll talk about it more, enables the CPC to actually do some due diligence work and other things. So 65% goes to an undesignated account, and that means we can combine reserves as well as undesignated on a large project. So this is our current budget that's before you, and I'm not going to go into it because of time, but we're estimating our surcharge will be $950,000. The state match, they provide a percent that we're supposed to match, that they think would be matched. This coming year, they estimate $147,000. So our estimated income is $1,097,250. The rest of it just talks about the reserves and how it's divided up. The only other point I'll make here is the Academy building this building is under a bond, and we have 9 or 10 years left on that bond, and we're paying about $311,000 and change this year. This is a little bit complicated, and I apologize, but I think it's really important to talk about. On the chart that you see, the blue is the town's surcharge income since 2006. The yellow or orange is the state match. So the state match comes into our accounts the year after the fiscal year closes. So that's why it starts a year later. And you can see that the town's increased quite significantly over these last almost 20 years. And this is all as June 25, so the 25 number's not finalized. That's gone up a little bit. But I wanted to point out something when you look at this. If you look at the next chart, and you look at these in another way, where you do a bar graph, the blue, you can see that there's pretty much a linear increase from 2006 to 2016. That increase is about, on average, about 3.2% income. That reflects new tax base, new buildings, build-outs, those kinds of things. So it was pretty much linear. But then it started to increase in 2017 and went up linearly again, so it's just normal growth. But then you see in 2022 and 2023, there was a large jump. It was actually 12% increase. After that, it has increased pretty steadily again. And I just looked at FY26 numbers, which are not complete, and essentially that trend continues. So that's a way to look at it. And the green line is the percent of state match. Essentially, I treated that as interest. We had 100% match the first 2 years. There was never a promise to have 100% every year, never. But we were early on into the program. We got 100% for 2 years. Now we're getting anywhere from 30 to 15, and the spikes in there are basically the state legislature added money to the state trust fund in order to get the match up for other towns. Part of the reason that's gone down is because we went from, I think it was like 10 or 12 towns when we started, and now it's 201. Our budget. Not going to deal with this. This is just our fiscal year 20, what are we in, 26? The May accounting. And you see right here, that's our income. By the way, municipal accounting, Lori, if I get this wrong, you can kick me. The way you look at money that's ahead of budget is a red in parentheses. So right now, our real estate surcharge, we estimated 900. It's running $148,000 ahead of that estimate. The tax liens and other things we don't count on the budget, but that's running ahead because there are some things that have come in. Interestingly, the state match, last year they said estimated 15.5. It was $135,000. We came in with $167,500. And now we have some earnings on investment. The town has done a phenomenal job of investing the CPA funds to get interest income. Right now, as of May, we've had $151,000 of income. That's independent of taxes. That's independent of the surcharge.
And that, I'd like to just add that the liens, the earnings on investment, penalties, and interest are not figured in when we do our budget, because we've been told we can't include it. All we can include when we set our budget is the real estate surcharge and the state revenue.
Thank you. The last piece on this chart here is right here. That's a reimbursement for a grant that the town applied for. The Stiles and Hart improvement project had a potential for getting a rebate. And so we got $773,600 back. We'll talk a bit more about that if we can. Up here, this is what we have already, you guys have appropriated, but it's unspent yet. So that's the 1.06 million. Down here is the undesignated fund balance, which basically sums up all the money that is in the account totally. It's in the bank. And what you see there is the difference between what's in the bank and what's appropriated is the amount of money we have for future projects. So we do a calculation that shows that we have about $3+ million in the bank, but we have a few big projects coming that we'll talk about.
One thing to note on that, the bottom of the left, it says Keith Homestead Academy Building. Keith Homestead, Fast Academy Building. The Keith Homestead has been paid off completely this year. So that's not on our books anymore. All that's still on, as far as bonding, is the Academy Building. And as Calvin said, that's another 10 years of payments.
Moving on, at the end of the fiscal year, all of our monies that have not been spent on various accounts, closed accounts, et cetera, go back into the accounts. So none of that money can go to the general fund. This is just a quick slide to show how much money by year has been appropriated, and I'm not going to spend time on it. We've had 5 projects that withdrew or decided not to go forward, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Gina?
We've determined a process for CPC for folks to apply for funding. We've created the flow chart. Starts with, we get the request. This is for administrative accounts. Administrative funding does not need to go through the council. It just needs CPC approval. CPC receives a request. We vote on it. It's approved. If it's not eligible, we just let the person know, or the organization, end the process. If it needs more information, it goes back. If, hopefully, we eventually approve it, applicants notified of the award, finance department's notified, procurement is done. Lots of times it involves a current project we have going now with surveying out of admin funds, which is going through the town manager's office for the procurement. Invoices, all invoices for CPC are approved by myself, and my absence, Calton approves them. Projects complete, and a final report's prepared and accepted. For projects funding, it's a little more complicated. Basically, up to the CPC vote, the last triangle on the top line, we don't recommend end of project process. If we do, and as Calton said, community preservation does not approve projects. We recommend to the council. The council can either approve, not approve, or lessen the amount. They can't increase it. So we basically go through the same thing. It's put on the council agenda, first reading, committee, second reading, council votes. Same as the other applicant is notified. For project funding, it either has to have an award letter or a grant agreement for, which spells out all terms of the award. Again, procurements made, invoices approved, projects complete. At the end, any remaining funds go back into the bucket they came from. If it came from open space, it goes back into the open space.
I'm going to move on very quickly. We can recommend that the town bond funds. This academy building had a $5 million bond on it. We're just about paid off in 9 years. Couple of points. They must be issued against the municipality's future revenue stream. So that the bonding, what we have is a potential future, and there's a calculation to do that. That's what the municipality can bond on CPA revenue. You can only bond that against our local surcharge, not the total amount of money we have in the bank or the amount that we expect from the state. It's only the local surcharge. And the bonds have to be approved by the council. There's a number of things that I'm not going to get into here, but the CPA is unidirectional. We can recommend it. You can bring other bond requests into a bond, but we only pay the portion that CPA recommended. The town council and town manager cannot use CPA funds without going through the bonding process that we just talked about. It doesn't go both ways. This is just a quick shot of a plan that we had developed during the program. All of our major buildings, the Townhouse, Academy Building, the Memorial Library, and the Public Library have received funds. But this was the plan that started all of that. I'm going to switch gears. In the administrative account, we can fund independent staff to cover a portion of salaries or somebody to administrate us. We fund appraisals, consultants, legal assistants, general studies, due diligence on projects, newspaper ads, and miscellaneous expense. We also do fund our mandated 5-year plan. We pay for that out of those admin funds. We can pay for a building OPM, owners, project manager, coordinators. So it's very extensive what we can fund out of that 5% per year. I'm not going to go into this because time's limited. This is just a listing of all the open space acquisitions we've acquired, all of the conservation restrictions we've acquired, the historic preservation work that the committee's done. And if you see a number behind that, that means funding's been 2 or 3 times. Recreation, and then housing. I'm going to highlight the McElwain School in a minute. So very quickly here, this slide shows the Stiles and Hart property. We purchased 5 acres up here with CPA funds in 2029, and then 2 parcels right here were purchased off Broad Street for parking. The committee and the council appropriated $1.3 million for trails and more, engineering, design, improvement, and the town issued a contract for improvements to the park. That came in at $845,000. Work's been completed for the most part, but not all the part. It was closed in 2025, and as a result of that, we only got back that $73,000 in reimbursement. We expected $400,000. The old mobile station is the other one that we've been talked about. We put a $313,000 into that, and that enabled a $500,000 reimbursement park grant, which in fact is being completed in the next 2 weeks. Hanson Farm, you all know about that. We purchased the development rights. Thankfully, this town applied for and received a $3 million grant that funded that acquisition, and the CPC only had to put up $32,000 as a 1% match. What am I doing? It's telling me time's up. Oh.
30 minutes.
Come on.
Is that the last slide?
I may have to stop.
No, yeah.
I'm sorry. No, I didn't set it for a certain time. I apologize. Oh, here we go. There we go. Quickly, recreational fields. Legion Field, girls softball field, I don't know how many people would know that we funded that back in 2007. Why is this not going forward? Recent recreation stuff, we created the pickleball courts at the senior center. We funded $45,000 for the Old State Farm Trail engineering, and right now we're currently looking at a project that would put recreational fields at the middle school. That's in progress. Housing projects, Hemlock Drive Wind Authority, $363,000, enabled an additional grant for funding construction, and they expect that to complete that in June of this year. The McElwain's, go the other way. The McElwain School, CPA put up $1.3 million. CPA funded, under its admin account, the National Historic Registry designation. Without that designation, this project would not have gone forward. So CPA paid for that, provided $1.3 million. That helped, and it's opened, and to be honest with you, it got some significant awards. It's probably the golden project of Bridgewater, possibly the state, in terms of housing. They got an award for their work. The house that's in front of you here was actually purchased separately. But when they opened up the walls, they found out that there were certain historic features. They restored that because it's a historic house. All right, we're almost there. Again, preservation projects, memorial building. This is what the architect rendition was. This is the final product. We funded the steps, and we funded the handicap parking. Up here is the townhouse, and you'll notice in 1880, there was a nice square corner. You can see it over here, and there's a hose drying tower, and I'm just showing you what that looks like. So if we redo that building or repurpose that building, that's a potential place where we can put an elevator. Moving on, this is just a comparison before and after where the circles are. One thing I'll point out in the townhouse, we put insulation up there. That's an energy savings in the future. Recent historic projects, the library, number of library things, a lot of books, a lot of town documents, et cetera. Right now, we funded these display cases in the library because when they put artifacts out, books out, they need to be preserved correctly, displayed correctly. We did that. And, okay, foyer, you see that when you come in, that was all redone. And I'm not going to go into that detail. The interesting one is the one on the right, the children. That's what it looked like before it was restored and what it is now. The town spent some good, reasonable money on that. Okay. This is just a documentation that shows how many projects we've done relative to state. We're about in the middle in terms of funding and our statewide rank in terms of open space, historic preservation, et cetera. You guys can study that later. Gina, it's your turn.
Okay, additional CPC requirements. CPC must annually hold a public hearing to identify changes in the community's needs priorities. Oops, I'm sorry. Priorities and resources. And our current plan is online on the CPC page of the town's website. The plan must be, per the Mass General Law, updated every 5 years. We approved our last one, the 2004-2029, January of 2025. And we went through a major process with that. We did focus groups, we did surveys, and as Cal mentioned, it was funded through our administrative account. For the town, the Bridgewater Admin Code requires the CPC to meet with the town council annually, which we thank you for having us tonight. CPC has provided intermittent presentations for several years. Last one was 3 years ago. That's why you're getting so much information tonight. Projects that we have in process, the First Parish Church window restoration, historic, that should be, it was appropriated September 2025. It should be done soon. It was put on hold basically because of the cold weather. Taking windows out really wasn't good. Carlton mentioned the functional fields at the middle school, be recreation. So far, we've appropriated $25,000 for engineering out of an anticipated budget of $500,000. The council has approved $25,000. The Parks and Recreation that's putting it through is waiting for the engineer report before they submit their final request. Housing Authority windows support, as Carlton mentioned, Stiles and Hart Trail and access upgrades for the Southern Trail accessibility. Project was closed. We're in the process of rescoping it. Summer Street Park, CPA deed restriction is required. Hanson Farm Trail, it's still in process. We have to put the bridges over wetlands and log boards and such, so that's still in process. Townhouse Interior Historic Assessment, the contract was awarded to J. Booth and Associates. That should be starting soon, hopefully. Yep.
He wants to visit the townhouse Thursday.
Thank you. Historic Town Cemetery Assessment Restoration. CPC received an application that was submitted to the council for $200,000 to assess 10 town-owned cemeteries. The RFP came in astronomically higher. So the scope was revised. CPC anticipates a new RFP going out soon. Potential projects coming up: the Osamequin Fire Apparatus Historic Pictures Restoration. CPC at its May meeting has determined that it is eligible for the equipment and the pictures, and we're pending an application. Public Library for window rehab, ADA upgrades, and column rehabs. Again, eligibility, it was determined to be eligible at the May CPC meeting, pending an application. Marathon Park, ADA compliance, the Disabilities Commission is working on that with Parks and Recreation. Parks and Recreation is also looking to rehabilitate the track at Legion Field. And if you ask what track at Legion Field, for those of us that have been around, there used to be a track, so it's looking to put that back in. Senior Center is interested in putting in walking trails around the property. Jenny Leonard Park, which is on Cherry Street, recreation, it's conceptual. The park is completely run down now. And what we would like to do is Parks and Rec, Oldfield Estates has offered a piece of property to the town. The town needs to take action on it. It will drastically increase the size of Jenny Leonard. We've had a few parents come to us for an ADA playground at the Williams School. That's still in concept. Okay.
So I'm going to say it's running late. So do you guys have questions? I appreciate your persevering with us, but we thought it was really important for you all to see some things, because there's a lot of counselors that haven't been exposed to this. In the future, we come back every year. This will probably be a 10-minute presentation. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you both for that. And for the folks that don't own the audience, I did ask them to keep it to a 20-minute presentation, but I really thank you all for trying to put together as much information as you could in that short period of time. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for working with us, but I'll open it up to any questions.
Good, we confused you all. Thank you.
Could I just ask, I just have two quick questions. One, could you share with the audience when your regular meeting time is so that folks that may want to attend could? And then second, maybe you could answer these together. Could we put this PowerPoint somewhere where folks can grab it?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm taking it from you. It will be included in the packet, and we will put it on the CPC webpage. I've already got it into the hands of people to do that.
Thank you. Meeting time.
Okay. And we do meet the fourth Wednesday of every month at 6:30.
And it's online, right? Correct?
Right, it's
Okay.
Zoom. We try for hybrid, but basically it's been Zoom. In conclusion, I would just like to thank again for the opportunity to present tonight. We've seen any project completed with CPA funding that otherwise would not have happened without the funding, or if they did happen, they would have to come from town funds. We look forward to many more. As Carlton said, the handouts will be on the CPC webpage. And I'd also lastly like to point folks to the CPA Coalition website, a wealth of information, anything you could imagine to know about CPA and projects is there. I'd like to lastly thank the CPC members, thanks to the councilors for listening to us, and special thanks to Carlton, who put together the PowerPoint.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, we will move on to our town manager report. We will start with the library update.
I'm going to have our library director, Jed, come speak to that. But before I have Jed come speak about giving you an update about our meeting last night with the library trustees and where we are, I kind of want to quickly just address the people in attendance who have spoken to the library, spoken about the library, as well as the many emails and calls our office has received. I want you to know that, and I see some of our staff from the library here, I want you to know that our staff appreciates your advocacy. I know this council does, but I want to speak directly for myself. I appreciate your advocacy. The emails that we received, the passion, it's appreciated. This budget was very difficult, and I know, and I've seen some new faces, so I do want to illustrate how difficult that was. But there took a lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work, a lot of creativity. We worked with some members of our library union who are here this evening, where we worked to try to mitigate and have lower reductions in hours than most of our other employees are having for our full-time employees. So we try to be creative. For context, this budget, after we met our school appropriation, we had $540,000 available to fund the rest of town operations. And so I'm going to have Jed speak about a solution that we've been working on. And I know Jed mentioned last night, we've pretty much been working every day, looking at every option, because we all are approaching this where we don't want to be decertified. And so I'll let Jed speak to that. But to further show our commitment to the library, how much we care, I pulled some data. For the past 5 years, in this year, in the capital improvement funds program that I submitted and the council ultimately approved, in 1 year alone, we provided more funding and capital than we have for the past 5 years. I want you to hear directly, we care. We provided more funding in our operational budget to do some of the work in the library that we haven't been able to do this year. So we care, we're passionate just as much as you. And even though we may have a solution, I want people to be aware, this is not a long-term solution. I think we've heard from the Collins report, we've heard from the council, and you're gonna hear from our library director. Any potential solutions are a short-term gap. And we need that advocacy moving forward in the next budget. I think you had a speaker speak about the challenges of not only this year, but next year. So I hope you remain engaged. And in that end, I do want Jed to deliver some potentially news to those in attendance as well as the council. Thanks.
Good evening. As Justin said, I was asked to come and speak a little bit about what we've been racking our brains on over the last several weeks, and as well kind of give a brief summary of what the MBLC state law certification requirements are and where we stand, just so that the council has maybe a better understanding of what those restrictions are. There are two things you want to bear in mind always when we're talking about certification. It's, I hate using jargon, MAR, which is the municipal appropriation requirement, and the TAMI, which is the total appropriated municipal income. Very simple terms. The MAR is the minimum amount the state sets for the library to be funded in order to be certified. The TAMI is the actual amount that is in any approved operating budget for that fiscal year. That is a major component in determining whether or not we qualify for certification, but it's not the only thing. It's not just about money. There are many other requirements, and just from my notes, there's minimum local municipal support. Also, we have to hit certain open hours each week, as well as number of days open. We have to ensure that the services we provide to the residents are in fact free and that we do not charge beyond what we receive as budget through tax revenue and such. We have to maintain certain level of annual reporting. There needs to be certain levels of training and education and numbers of employees that meet those numbers. We have certain materials expenditures each year. And when I say materials, what I mean is items anyone in town can walk into and borrow from the library. And then we're also obligated for resource sharing with other libraries within the state. All of those go into consideration, one, when ensuring we meet certification requirements, and two, when we do not meet certification requirements. All of those are factors in considering any waiver requests that we submit to the state. There were a few slides that I believe made it into the packets, but in the interest of the fact that these meetings go very long and in just the interest in everyone's time, we're not really going to go over those, but I do encourage the board to look those over at their leisure, please, because it does have some basic numbers. As far as Justin and I and Laurie and the town, the board of trustees, we haven't left a single stone unturned in trying to find a way to staunch the bleeding. And I'll be completely candid with you. You know, the library is on life support. We're just trying to keep us afloat, to give all of us time to come up with a long-term solution. But it is quite dire. The current proposal that we're looking at is, excuse me, we will have some state aid within our existing accounts at the beginning of this coming fiscal year. The current proposal is to utilize and divert those funds for their originally intended expenses, which is programming, materials, databases, online resources, and use that to supplement the shortfall in our payroll expenses to bring the library up to the minimum necessary number of open hours to be eligible to apply for a waiver. I want to be clear, being eligible to apply for a waiver just means MBLC gives us a seat at the table and we can submit an application. They will still take all kinds of other metrics in considering whether or not we qualify for that waiver. So I don't want anyone to be under the impression that this is a guarantee solution, but it's the alternative is doing nothing and being decertified and going through a multi-year process where the future of the library is not guaranteed. I will also be clear that this stopgap, there will be no repeating this next year. This will completely bottom out any potential secondary funds to do anything like this again. This is a one-off, and it will put us in a very precarious situation moving forward. Like I said, I wanted to keep it brief, so that's my comments, but any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Take questions. I'll start with Councilor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jed, can you go over, what's that timeline that you were talking about as far as the process as far as the application for the waiver? When does that start? When does that get announced and things of that nature?
So we do the annual reporting requirement where we submit all data to the state. There's two different reports we submit. The first one, it opens for submission as of the beginning of the fiscal year, July 1st. That is basically statistics on our hours, our services, what we provide, all of that. And that's open for submission until mid-August. We then have a little bit longer, till about October, to submit our financial report. That is what the state goes off of based on, how much money the town has appropriated for the budget, how much expenditures we spent, what percentage of our budget goes towards circulating materials the public has access to, all of that data. In order to just be eligible to apply for a waiver, the absolute minimum number of open hours, which is the biggest factor we're dealing with right now, is 53 hours a week, 5 days a week being open with a combination of morning, afternoon, and evening hours for a minimum of 38 consecutive weeks within the fiscal year. So this proposed plan that we're looking at is taking that chunk of state aid we have to bring the library back to those minimum hours starting on October 1st through the rest of the fiscal year to hit that 38 minimum requirement so that we can submit that application and hopefully be granted a waiver.
And just as an extension, when is that decision made as far as the state goes on the waiver?
So what NBLC has explained to me is that as of their November board meeting, if we cannot show in our documentation that we're going to hit those minimum hours, library is automatically decertified without any appeal, without any waiver, regardless of what the funding is. The biggest, most pressing emergency is hitting those minimum hours. We could talk about what the total budget needs to be in order to just be certified, but if those hours aren't addressed, that's just an exercise in theory, because that's what we have to address first.
Thank you on that.
So, through you, Mr. President, to the director. So you answered the question that I was going to also ask, but this year, the previous fiscal year, the archivist position was cut. That was a full-time position, correct?
The position, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of terminology, the position wasn't cut. Last fiscal year, there was a hiring freeze on that position. It was determined to be left open. That was our former archivist left at the end of fiscal year 25. Yeah. We had to apply for a waiver with the state for this fiscal year 26 because of those funds and a few other things, we were about $7,000 short of meeting the MAR. That compounds each year because the way the state does it, it's the MAR or the total municipal appropriation, whichever number is higher. So just because one year the town doesn't meet it, doesn't mean that calculation doesn't continue to grow. And I may have skipped this part. The way they calculate the MAR, it's 2.5% of the average of the last 3 years' budget, the MAR or the TAMI, whichever is higher. So we were short last year, but for this fiscal year, their calculation is still based on what we were supposed to meet in order to get certification. So it's the archivist isn't really factoring into our shortcomings right now. Yeah.
And Councilor Lindy, I would just add to that. I know the archivist position was brought up as well. I know the council remembers as part of this post-supplement appropriation, although the archivist position was a part of the original budget, as part of the post-supplement appropriation, that funding was removed from the budget for the rest of the fiscal year. So it didn't remain in the budget. Yeah.
I do remember that. So my second question is, during this fiscal year, an employee left and that position wasn't filled for the whole year. Is that correct?
We did have a employee that actually moved out to London, and there was a brief amount of time between her leaving and that position being filled that there was a gap in employment there, yes.
Okay, and then my question through you, Mr. President, to either the town manager or the finance director is, I would assume that money goes into free cash. Is that correct?
You're correct. That's similar to like any other position in another department. If you don't fill it or if it's filled at a lower rate than the previous employee, those funds fall to free cash. That's what funds our stabilization, our capital, and so forth.
So we just had a Budget and Finance Committee meeting prior to this meeting, and we're going to be recommending to the council end of the year transfers. So my question on that is, if that money is going to head to free cash, whatever that amount is, I don't know if anybody knows that amount, cannot that money be used if it's appropriated by the council in the next fiscal year towards library staffing?
No, I think I could have Ms. Guarini explain exactly why, or I could just be very quick about that. Those funds cannot be used in a forthcoming fiscal year. What we'll do at the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, the finance team will reconcile their books, et cetera. They'll report this data in terms of our revenue received, et cetera, to the DOR. The DOR then looks at those that information, and then they certify free cash. Usually, depending on the municipalities, how good they are, we're a very good team. It's generally about October or November where they certify free cash. You can't roll over funds from one fiscal year into the next fiscal year. It doesn't work that way, which is municipal finance.
I'm done at this time.
Councilor Trocchio? Oh, I'm sorry, I had Councilor Kennedy first.
Oh, no, go ahead, Mr.
Go ahead,
Kennedy.
Through you, Mr. President, thank you all for collaborating on trying to find a solution. I know that there's some interesting funding requirements that go into some of this. So I just want to clarify exactly what the proposed current plan is going to be. It would be to spend money that the state gives the town to create a stopgap for the second half of the year, roughly, to extend that hours through the remainder of the year, which would meet the requirement that the state's giving to stay open and get the funding from the state.
So
certified.
It won't ensure or guarantee that we will stay certified. It will allow us to be eligible to apply for a waiver. And as I think some people said before, this is our second year in a row. We will be behind in priority of anyone for their first year, and the obligations of the town to present information explaining why the requirements get stricter and stricter as each consecutive year goes by. So I don't want anyone to be under a false understanding that, oh, this is a solution, no problem, but it's the best path forward available to me at this time that I can find. But what the proposal specifically is diverting state aid that is intended for buying materials, paying for programming, paying for databases and online resources, and using that as a stopgap to supplement the shortcomings of the already approved payroll budget for the fiscal year for 38 weeks in the year to get us to be able to apply for that waiver, to at least have a chance. Without that, it's do not pass go, do not collect $200, we are decertified.
One thing I would add to that, Councilor Kennedy, and Jed can obviously attest to this too, that obviously this year we did apply for a waiver, and we cannot guarantee that we're going to receive a waiver. I do believe we've advocated with our state representative. There are communities that have been on waivers multiple years as well. We'll try to navigate that. But the plan would be for October 1st to meet those 38-week requirement, but it's also not just the minimum 5 days, because what we're intending to do is go from Monday through Saturday, be open, starting October 1st throughout the fiscal year. So I think it's just important to be clear on that.
Yeah, my apologies for not being clear on that.
No, you were, I just wanted to kind of get it reiterated again, so it is clearer for everyone listening. And we've been on, this would be, we were on a waiver last year. This would be the second year in a row for us.
Correct.
Okay. Are those decisions made based on like Mass General law, or is it just a bureaucratic agency that sets the parameters and regulations?
So the minimum requirements and the standards are Mass General law. MBLC, it just administers that law. Okay. And they've explained to me that unless there's any kind of state level change to the law, they have to administer the law.
Has there been any advocacy to make adjustments? Because I know that we're not the only town going through these.
There have been a lot of talks. I can't speak to that organization officially, but the people I've spoken directly to, they do not foresee any feasibility or possibility of that happening this fiscal year.
Okay. And then my last question. We've had citizens who have offered generously to donate to the library. It's my understanding that these funds cannot be used for this purpose, keeping hours, keeping the employees and meeting these requirements that the state is, but those funds can go towards the programming. So we're taking, is that accurate? Is that?
I can't speak to the specific rules and restrictions to this town, but I know there is a precedent of libraries in the state using donations to supplement payroll.
Okay. If we are using the state aid to supplement the payroll through what's being proposed, the money that citizens would then donate would most likely go to programming. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, any funds that we would receive in donations, unless they have specific stipulations attached with donation, which many our donations do, would all, by necessity, go into making up that new gap in funding for the services, the programs, and the resources that we normally provide.
And is there a specific group that the library tends to coordinate with, charity-wise, that donates? Is it a Friends of the Bridgewater Library type of situation?
The Friends is a fairly new organization in my tenure here. There was several years in which they did not exist. They are a great option, and they do the best they can in raising funds and helping with programming. We've also had a few private organizations that make charitable donations on a fairly regular basis, and then the vast majority of private donations just comes from individual generous residents of the town.
Okay, maybe we can coordinate and have a discussion at some point in the future about maybe promoting some of that if we need to divert funding from events and books, and we may want to get the word out on how people can donate in a way that is going to benefit them or go towards what they're looking to donate towards, what services they want to see at the library. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Trocchio?
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. So my question is, what is the risk if we only use state aid as this current Band-Aid?
It's twofold. One, there's nothing in the state law that prevents us from doing that, but MBLC has made it very clear they don't look too kindly on it. They're not thrilled with seeing money intended for other purposes being used for payroll, but they do allow it legally. So that's one, that it puts us in a less strong position for any waiver request. Then the other is that it zeroes out everything. We will be, unless there's drastic improvement in situations for fiscal year 28, the library will be in an even more tenuous position. But again, we have to deal with the fire that's in front of us.
Thank you. So my next question is, so let's say, for example, we use the state aid. My biggest fear is, if we're using the state aid, the state budget's discretionary. They allocate, depending on how much they send down here. We use it. We have the Band-Aid, but the certifying board basically looks at, from what I understand, a totality of the circumstances analysis. So they can offer this state aid, but the reason the board exists is it's a forcing mechanism for towns to fund the library. That's my understanding of it. Is that correct?
That is correct. It's to penalize towns that do not meet minimum support of their libraries and to reward those that do.
And we're already on our second year of a waiver. There's only 4 towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that do not have a certified library, each with a population of less than 800, whereas Bridgewater, we have a population of almost 30,000. Our overall budget for the library in last fiscal year, according to the Massachusetts Department of Revenue and the data I pulled, was that 1.07% of our budget was spent to the library, whereas the average town in the Commonwealth spent 1.24%. I have some concerns about just only utilizing the state aid. If that state aid's dried up and we're only allowing ourselves just the opportunity to get rejected, and we're not really changing our current circumstance, I don't feel comfortable that the probability of them approving a waiver is likely.
I would agree, but all I can do is present a path forward with the resources I have. If the council and town government wants to, find alternative funding, I'm all for it, but this is with the numbers I have, this is what we've come up with.
Councilor Trocchio, the only thing that I would add to that is, obviously there's concern, overall, we are not funding our town operations sufficiently. I mean, we've all talked about this. But the one caveat, and obviously these funds are geared for library expenses. We have $151,000 available to us right now on our books there. We typically roll them over next year, and obviously the library does great programming, great services. That's what they prioritize off of it. I just want to make sure we're clear. We're not using the state aid that we're receiving for next year or anything. We're not counting for that. We're counting for, hey, We had $151,000 available in state aid. Obviously, we have to close out the rest of the fiscal year. There's some expenses associated with it, but we do have that amount in there. I think we're looking at potentially about $55,000 from what I've looked with John and Lori, we would use from state aid to do the next fiscal year. So, obviously, that's a reduction to programming expenses. We hope to get some mitigation of that with donations, but we have to acknowledge that you can't guarantee that. But it isn't, we're utilizing the state aid that we're getting next year. We're using what we typically roll over the next fiscal years. Just want to be clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Spigot.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Phillips, thank you for coming before us this evening. I had an interesting question that came in from a neighbor this afternoon. It relates to the sales network system. I know that in the event of a decertification, we would lose access to sales, but my question from my neighbor was, is there any way that we can discuss with sales any type of other opportunity to still have them allow us to use the system, even in light of a decertification, even with a reduction in hours? Is there any way we can negotiate that, or is that like hard and fast at that point because the NBLC says you're not certified anymore, you have no access to that system? It feels like it's a one-size-fits-all outdated type of policy. So if you could, I guess, share with us what the experience is with them on that one, I think that might answer my neighbor's question. Thank you.
Yes. So unfortunately, it's not a policy or decision that sales as an entity makes. It's a policy or decision that the public libraries make based on guidance from the NBLC requirements. From my understanding, I only know of one sales membership library that has their trustees look at this on a case-by-case scenario and vote whether or not they will still continue to reciprocal borrow with the decertified library. All other libraries in the sales network have a blanket policy individually that if a library is decertified, they will not reciprocal borrow.
Mr. President, follow-up question. So it's more or less a punitive policy across the board?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So it's sounding to me like it's almost like a punitive policy across the board, that if you get decertified, just because, you're a victim of circumstance, you get to suffer more for it. That doesn't really seem helpful to you guys.
It's not helpful, but I understand on a larger statewide policy why they do that. It's to ensure that towns that do not fully fund their library are not then carrying services for their residents on the funds of other towns.
Any additional questions before I go back to Council Lindy? I just want to get everybody the first
I
time.
have a
Thank you.
question, but if
I'm going to go
Mary
to
would-
Council Adeline first, and then Council Hunt, Council McGrath.
I wanted to know if it would be possible to have Friends of the Library do major fundraising like the 4th of July committee in our town, such that we could put that $55,000 to the first half of the year and have the fundraising cover the second half of the year. Do you think that is possible?
I think any kind of fundraising is possible. As far as how those funds can be used in relation to payroll, I can't speak to the rules and structures of how this town works, but from my limited understanding, I believe private donations can be used in that way, yes.
Okay.
Council Hunt?
I'm trying to see if I'm thinking correctly on this, and I might not be, so you're going to just shoot me down. One of the reason that we're in serious trouble is because we don't have enough money to keep enough employees there for all the time that employees need to be there. Is that right? We just got done hearing from the CPA that they have some money that perhaps I would think might be able to employ someone to do historical type of work in your history room or something like that at the library that's really needed, that fits under CPA type of regulations. I don't know, they're still sitting back there, so maybe they know. Is that anything even remotely logical?
So the difficult needle we would have to thread in that situation is that, as I said before, funding is not the sole indicator of whether or not we qualify for certification. There are certain standards for employees. For example, there needs to be a certain number of MLS degreed holding librarians working for based on population size, that sort of thing. There are also, because of the data of personal data that staff members have access to of the public, there are restrictions in who can do those jobs. So I don't know the specific CPA rules about, funding an employee, but any employee that would be brought into the library would have to have the capabilities of doing core librarianship
Yes.
in order for us to be able to stay open.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, finding somebody who needs a job, who has all the authorities for a library person, perhaps working in the historical part of the library. That was my thought. I have no idea if that really could work, but that is from the dinky brain.
Councilor Hunt, one of the things that we've talked about, like Jed and us will admit, we've talked about a variety of scenarios with finance. I'll give you an example, the archivist position.
Yes.
That was a position that was semi-funded in the budget and capital as well, but Jed could attest and our HR director could attest, it was very difficult to hire an archivist in the first place, right? Because you have to have certain technical requirements, the environment that we're in, et cetera. So it's something that we looked at. We talked about that, and we just didn't think that was the right course of action to pursue. But it's definitely something that we've looked at, and we'll continue to look at it. If that's an opportunity that we can move forward and mitigate the general fund expense of it, it's something worth considering.
Councilor McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Phillips, one of my residents asked, and because how many libraries are in our sales?
I believe it's currently 74.
74.
But I think 2 of them are school libraries, so they're kind of a little different. But
So she was wondering, how can we influence the other libraries and get together to change it so libraries aren't punishing each other? Can we do that? Can, like, you guys reach out to other trustees and see how many of the 74 would be willing to change it so kids and everybody else don't get punished, because it's not a state law?
So, again, it's individual libraries, and from my understanding, all but one in sales have a blanket policy. Can a board of trustees, depending on how their town government is and what kind of authority they have, change any policy of the library within legal limits? Absolutely. I find it unlikely, if I'm being candid, that input from outside of their town would be seriously considered. Their responsibility is the benefits of their residents.
I mean, we're all towns are suffering right now from income.
Right.
It might be a good way to start it, at least a conversation, and we can have the residents who emailed us email you guys and ask maybe for you to do it. And the other question she was asking is it time that we change the way we do things? Because when the library is closed, some of the resources can only be had during the operations.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
She was saying that sometimes when the library's closed, she can't get online to do certain things. Is it all, I mean, I know you can, I know you can hold books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But are there some technologies? I don't know.
No, functionally, that's not how we operate.
Okay.
It might be an issue on their technology. The only thing close that I can think of is there are certain databases that only are accessible on our IP address, meaning you physically have to be in the building
Okay.
to access those things. But that's, like, for example, Ancestry.com. That's a restriction of our subscription that they have implemented. We do not turn off access to any services just because the lights are off.
All right. She wasn't clear about it, so I wasn't sure. She had emailed me a couple times, but thank you.
And then just to follow up, I would agree that, conversation should be had with other towns, but it is going to be a very tough sell since everyone's, suffering, saying, because we're unable to meet our obligations, you guys should foot the bill.
McGrath, one thing I would add to that as well, I've talked about this before, but want to reiterate. I agree with Jed. I don't necessarily think MBLC will change its policy at this point. However, we have advocated, I've spoken with Representative Gallagher and as well as Senator Driscoll. A lot of communities are in this similar situation. But I also reminded the council before, I'm part of the MMA Finance Committee, and part of what we're looking at too is petitioning the administration and to address this, because a lot of our communities are faced with this, and I do think we might have a pretty significant amount of communities going for waivers this year. So this is something that we are trying to advocate for. We're not just taking this. Obviously, I don't think we can change it, but we're going to advocate for our community, and that's what we are doing. And Jed is doing that too. I know he's done that.
Thank you. I'll let the resident know.
Councilor Lindy?
I do want to ask, if we are decertified, it's not just physical materials, it's virtual materials. It's Hoopla and Libby and stuff like that, correct?
Yes, part of being a certified library is that the Boston Public Library, being the central library of the state, and MBLC fund access to a lot of databases and resources that are made available without cost to all public libraries that meet certification. We do risk losing certification, losing access to all of those resources.
And if I'm correct me if I'm wrong on my numbers, because it might be outdated, having been on a board 7 years ago. 59 million items in the Commonwealth catalog that we have access to, and then I'm not sure what the sales network is or what we have at our disposal in our own library. Do you know those numbers?
So I don't have the, as of today, exact numbers, but your numbers are definitely much lower than they actually are. We have a collection here physically in our building, about 315,000. Just the reciprocal borrowing and sales puts us at about 5 million. Add to that Commonwealth, the reciprocal borrowing with the state, and millions and millions, just so much information, so many resources.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional questions? Okay. Thank you to the library director and the library trustees this evening. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, water update.
So water update. One, we're going to have a variety of things I'm going to try to address today. But first, I do want to take the opportunity to remind people that next week, and we will make sure we advertise this, next week we're having a water forum. It's 6/23, it's June 23rd, 6:30 to 7:30. I want to thank BTV, we'll record it. I encourage residents, if they have any questions, to send questions to our town manager at bridgewaterma.org email. We're going to record this. We encourage you to ask questions. My plan, and obviously talking with the council president and the council, is to operate these forums similar to how I've operated my other forums. I will try to run through a list of updates, but then open it up for questions. I want residents to be able to have their questions answered. I will make sure that we'll have a representative from Apex as well as the team from the water department, myself, and I believe councilors are attending as well. So
That's happening here in this building. You didn't say that.
Here at the council chambers, June 23rd, next Tuesday, 6:30, 7:30. And if you aren't able to attend, BTV will record it, and please send questions in advance so we can try to answer your questions if you're not available.
And just to advertise to folks again, if there are additional questions that either are sent to the town manager or us individually as counselors, either way works, just as long as you get your questions to somebody, we'll try to provide answers that evening.
Yeah. So one of the first items I want to address is in terms of the Middleborough interconnection. I want to make sure we're trying to be as transparent, as communicative as possible. The town is still receiving water from Middleborough. It hasn't been cut off, but as it has been in so many cases before, as their demand increases or decreases, they increase and decrease. This fluctuates. And we have a great partnership with Superintendent Bumpus in that community. They've been good stewards and collaborators with that. So it does increase and decrease. We do still have water from Middleborough. There's been a question about whether the town is interested in continuing the interconnection with Middleborough. Obviously, at our last meeting there, the select board at the time had indicated that they weren't interested in doing an extension beyond July 12th. But I do know that, the council president, I'm going to have the council president give an update regarding that because he did have I think some good communication with the town of Middleborough. So I'll throw that to the council president for a quick update there.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a quick update for the residents. Selectwoman Farley, who's the chair, was kind enough to take a call from me this morning. And I reiterated to her that Bridgewater would do anything we could if we could keep that interconnection going forward. She obviously couldn't speak for the board or her board, but I did express that willingness that if possible, Bridgewater would like to explore that, keep that interconnection. She agreed that we would be put on her July 6th select board meeting agenda, and that I told her I could be in attendance for that evening to answer questions and have a discussion. So that is the intention. They will add us to the agenda. Hopefully there's some hope there, but we'll see how that turns out.
Okay. And then I want to address sort of the notice that we provided on Sunday in terms of our water usage and demand. I heard, obviously, and heard from our counselors, I notified them before we did this, then I understand there was some angst regarding that. But I want to be very clear. One, a lot of communities were doing some of the similar thing. For example, the town of Hanover sent a message that they were at critically low historical levels because of water demand and the usage, and we're in a level 2 drought. So one, we're doing our best, obviously, with our 311 system, with Facebook, et cetera, encouraging people to conserve water, but that was a message that we needed to do. Obviously, and I know we presented this data before, when the town water storage levels have dropped to a level that when we got to protect our town, fire suppression protection, we've typically turned on well 10B. We haven't turned on 10A, but we've turned 10B on. And I presented to the council a while ago, we've been doing this since 2015. Every year, we've turned 10B on. And some misinformation has been that it's untreated water. It's treated water. It hasn't been filtered for iron and manganese. That's what the issue has been. And I just want to go through this and understand the chain of process here. So when I came on board, we activated it in September, October. And our commitment and what we said in collaboration, myself with the council, I said, I want to fix it. We've been doing this way for a long time. How do we fix it? So I made a commitment. I've said this. I'm going to do everything that I can to try to stop doing that process and address it. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're building that treatment plant that's on site. It will be online this summer, but to address it. But I also said, I ultimately have to protect this community. I didn't say I'll never turn 10B back on. I said I'm going to do everything I can to not do that. And so if we are in the position that we do need to turn 10B on, we will do that if that's the necessity for our town safety. However, a little bit of update, I won't say good news, but update, is we are making significant progress on that, on the treatment system at 10A and 10B. We're expecting, and we've been working with MECO and the contractors there, and with Apex and with DPW, that the iron and manganese treatment that hasn't been in place before, we're expecting that will be online within a couple of weeks, that it could be operational within a couple of weeks. So one, we could hopefully mitigate the issue of not treating for iron and manganese by getting that online. Still, we're doing PFAS as well there, but that would not be online until a little bit later. But that's something that we're looking at doing. So I want to be very clear about that. Some other work that we're doing. We had a call today with Mass DEP, one to run through where we're at, obviously follow up on the emergency declaration that we petitioned them for. But part of that plan, remember when we said the emergency declaration, we want to work with them and take every opportunity to expedite some of the work that we are trying to do. We had mentioned tuberculation at Carver's Pond. We obviously are not getting the actuals, the capacity at Carver's Pond. We're not seeing that, right? We mentioned there's tuberculation and so forth there, that we want to replace some piping there. And so we had some good news from Mass DEP this afternoon. They gave us some approval. There's work that we need to do, but gave approval on an expedited process there so we can do emergency work for that process too. Once again, we thank Mass DEP because that's how we were able to do that emergency procurement at 10A, 10B. So it looks likely we can do that as well. We talked about every opportunity available to add water to our system. We've discussed before as a team with East Bridgewater, trying to see if we can tie in with them for interconnection. We've known what that response is. We've reached out to them before, but we said, let's do it again. That was one of the things that we talked about. I reached out to the town administrator in East Bridgewater and asked if there was an opportunity to do that. Unfortunately, because of water pressure and so forth, it doesn't work. But we're looking at every opportunity to add water and try to mitigate using 10B until we get this project online. What else have we done? We've talked, I also had a conversation with the Lieutenant Governor today about making sure that, one, the town of Bridgewater is on their radar in this emergency situation, and asking to have an emergency meeting with her team, along with Mass DEP, DCAM, our Livable Communities group, to make sure that we're advocating for the town. They're very aware of our situation and assisting us in any way possible, financially, operationally, whatever possible. So I had that conversation with Lieutenant Governor today, and I'm hopeful that we'll have a response regarding that. Alternative sources of water. The council is aware that we have mentioned before that we've looked at alternative sources. We obviously want to prioritize Vernon Street redevelopment. That was mentioned today at Mass DEP as well, to see what we can do to expedite that work. But obviously a potential tie-in with the Aquarium plant through Brockton. So I did speak with Brockton today. We have a potential agreement that they've worked up that they're sending to us, which I've communicated to the councilors. So that's something that we'll definitely be looking at. We'll be looking at advocating for the town and seeing if that's something that's worthwhile for the town to consider. In the meantime, as I've told the councilors before, I'm working on scheduling a tour of that plant for you all, so you can see what it is, where it is, and so forth, and dispel some of the misinformation there. So I'm actively working with that with Brockton's DPW commissioner. Those are sort of the updates that I have. The work continues at 10A10B. We're doing everything. We're looking at everything possible. Obviously, more questions at the water forum. We're definitely going to try to work to address those from the residents then, and I hope people attend that, or if they're not able to, send questions. But
Okay, thank you very much. Questions from the councilors? Councilor Lindy.
So my question is, driving around town, looking at lawn signs for a power washing company, what can we do about people that say, I'm paying for the water, I'm going to use whatever water I want? We have a fine situation, but it's low, okay? Not looking to penalize people, but that kind of attitude is certainly not helpful. I live where every single lawn in my neighborhood is brown, okay? I don't have brown water, unfortunately, but the Aquaria thing, even if we were to come to an agreement, is a long time away. Is that correct?
when we say a long time, there's a lot of moving parts there. It could be a long time. I don't know what opportunities are to expedite it. It wouldn't be as quick as, let's say, the interconnection with Middleborough. Yeah.
And the other question is, I know you just talked to East Bridgewater again, and it's a no, but I know we talked to Taunton in the past, and is there any opportunity to talk to them again, or is that already a given that it's a no?
I spoke with the Taunton mayor. I think we had the South Rail Coast Forum a couple of weeks ago. Obviously we're going to look at everything. That was indicated that wasn't a possibility, but obviously keep trying. I'll ask once again whether that's something worth pursuing.
And on that note, if we're at the level where we're talking to the lieutenant governor, we have a prison here that they pay us $0 for mitigation funds. So the state needs to get involved and help us, maybe, to convince Taunton to help us out. The prison's getting water from Taunton, I believe. Am I correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so, to me, that's a no-brainer. Get the state to, I'm not going to say pressure Taunton, but to, push them a little bit on our behalf. I mean, right now, everything that is dealing with money in this town is kind of like what I call recycled money. We have to pay for the privilege of having the MBTA, okay? And we have to deal with MBTA communities. We have a prison here, we get no mitigation money from that, and we get a very small amount from the college. I personally think the college is an asset, but I think that amount should have gone up a lot each year to get us to some kind of reasonable number. So it just, we're in an absolute crisis, and I know you're trying to do everything you can. Maybe the lieutenant governor is going to do it. Lieutenant governor under the Baker administration was very active with cities and towns. I know Lieutenant Governor Driscoll, they're not utilizing her quite in that role that they did with the previous administration, but if we can get their attention, the governor comes down here, for various reasons. I just want to up the pressure. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah. I want to sort of address the issue about, power washing, and obviously people some people are still watering their lawns, and the comments about, I pay for the water, I'll use it. And that's why we've had these pleas about, this is a community, we've got to do these, and this is an actual emergency, because as it was referenced before, this town has dealt with water bans for many years. This is not new, and at some point I do think they're like, well, this is what we've been operating typically, but we haven't been in an emergency declaration. We haven't been doing the work that we're doing now, which is a fact. We're doing a lot more in this span of months than we've done in years. It's a fact. I don't have an answer to navigate that with residents, but what I will say is this: we have had sprinklers patrol from our staff of DPW. They come in early in the morning, they come in the afternoon and evening, and you mentioned fines and so forth. If someone is doing that work, we spend more in the overtime for the employee to come out to do that work than we do getting fines. And it's something that, obviously we don't want to penalize people for usage of water. This is one of the basic necessities of life. But we do have to be honest that the conservation of water is really important. We're in this together.
Councilor Kennedy?
Is there another avenue for public notice? I know the sign was put up in the center of town. When we had an override, we sent out notices about the override itself. There's around 19,000 voters in town, so those would be all adults. I don't know how many of them are aware that we're even in a water emergency if they don't pay attention to anything, either local government related or even on social media. So is there another avenue that we can take here to get the word out on this, and also frame it in a way that it's not just another water ban that we do every year? Because our water ban every year, for those that don't know, is state mandated. It's not the town, it's the state. This particular situation is different. So is there a way we can get that out?
Yeah, so one of the things that obviously people are aware, we have a reverse 911 system. It's one of the notification systems that for over the years we've been notifying people through Plymouth County. So we expect and hope that people will sign up through Plymouth County's process, get notifications via email, text, or whatever it may be. What we've done, and obviously it was a difficult budget, but I looked at these lines. We need to take ownership of that. We have to go to them, and sometimes they're like, yes, that's an action item that we can put on now, or sometimes it has to wait. What we're trying to implement and working with our IT department is a new notifying system that hopefully within a couple of weeks maybe, we'll be able to, working with our assistant town manager and IT department, we'll be able to notice that, put on our social media, encourage people to sign up directly for notifications from Bridgewater, from the town of Bridgewater, and not the Plymouth County. So we'll be advertising that. Obviously the water forums, the Facebook, social media, we've done podcasts, we've done a variety of things. If there's anything else that counselors or anyone else thinks would be something worthwhile, we're open to doing that.
Is the availability for a mailer to go out, or something to go out with the water bills themselves to notify?
One of the things that I talked about with our DPW team and our water superintendent was we have a mailing that will be coming out in July, and I was going to put something within there from my office included in that mailer about where we're at, about what we're doing and where we're going. So that's part of my plan for the July, I think it's July mailer for water.
Okay. Has there been a separate topic, still water? Has there been a discussion to ensure the college doesn't have a sudden surge? I know you've had open discussions with the college. We've kind of discussed this at council meetings in the past, but I just wanted to touch on that as well. That's kind of a concern some people have.
Absolutely. I can actually report on that too today. I've spoken with President Clark and his team several times, including today, and I spoke with their director of facilities directly. At this time, usually this point of the year, they do have to do some work for their power plant and to get it live. And typically they use our water for that. I received a commitment from President Clark and from our director, their director of facilities today, they will not use our water for that. They will truck the water in to do that work for the power plant.
Okay, well, that's good. And I know we've done a lot of well redevelopment. We've had motors go out. We've had all kinds of things. The tuberculation is the pipes closing and not allowing enough water flow to move through is a pretty serious issue, in my opinion. Is there any idea of when that scope may begin, or that the work may begin on that? Is there a bidding process? Is that an internal thing?
Yeah, no, so that's part of the whole, like I said, I'm gonna say good news in terms of Mass DEP. Our Jim McLaughlin and that team said that, once we give them the plans and they have the scope of that, they would approve this as a part of emergency work under emergency procurement. Well, we obviously still need to work with DCAM and make sure they're aware of that. But as soon as that is resolved, I've talked with Azu this afternoon, we are gonna move as quickly as possible to do that work.
Okay. And then my last question, when it comes to the state conversations, obviously we have the MBTA stuff. We are trying to continue to get grant money to flow into the town as much as possible. We've tried to thread the needle on how we work through the water emergency, holding up building where we're able to. Are there conversations around that as well to continue grant funding, considering our specific situation that we're in, which is unique within the MBTA communities that are affected by that legislation?
Absolutely. We've talked, as I mentioned before, we've talked with Representative Gallagher, we talked with Senator Driscoll. I had a meeting with leadership as part of the Livable Communities in terms of the One Stop for Growth grant program, getting on their radar, advocating. And that was part of what my conversation with Lieutenant Governor was today, is because we have been trying to thread the needle there. There's a lot of work that we need to do in this town for our water infrastructure, but we also realize that the expenses are borne by the users and our residents. So we've been trying to navigate that. We're going to continue that work. We're going to continue to advocate that. As you know, you've had ordinances submitted that Attorney General's office chime in on. We'll keep working, and we're going to try to navigate that as best as possible. But at the same time, we've got to protect this town, and we've got to protect our infrastructure. So at some point, if we have to make a different decision, and if we do have to sacrifice grants or anything, which we don't want to, then that's what we have to do. But we're going to advocate, and we're going to fight as hard for this community as possible.
Thank you. The ordinance that I had, I just want to touch on this really quick, Mr. President. The ordinance that I had put in a couple months ago has been an ongoing conversation that I've had with the town manager and how that deals with the state and the MBTA Act and ensuring we get grants in. So we had questions at citizen comment. I believe it was last meeting, looking for an update. The ordinance hasn't disappeared. We're just continuing to try to not force the state's hand in a sense to allow them to work out stuff on their end, to allow the town to still operate under its water emergency, and just kind of sort this out where we're continuing to move forward with our water improvements, but also not removing the ability to get grants, whether they're even associated to MBTA or not, because we don't want to be penalized on other grants that we could potentially get in our town. So I just want to let the public know that that is still there. It's still conversations that are ongoing probably every couple of weeks. So I know there's other conversations about different topics surrounding that, but that ordinance is still there. I still think it's a good ordinance, and it's a long-term plan to keep our water in check. So thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Councilor McGrath?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to the town manager. I moved in here in 2015, so and I'm right down the street, probably a stone's throw from the wells. So I've been dealing with this brown water for a long time, so I appreciate everything you're doing. However, we've never been given notice when you put 10B on, and I could have a wash in there. So if you could, I've asked before and can never get it, so if you could just send out something that we're going to turn it on, so I won't be in the shower washing clothes when you do it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll definitely give my commitment that we'll do any noticing that's required. Well, even beyond what's required. There's noticing that's required with putting well 10B on if we do that, but we will do above and beyond. We will try to 301. We'll put it on Facebook and social media. One other thing about 10B though, and once again, important to look at this. I was reviewing the data once again and just backtracking a little bit about the commitment to try to do everything we can not to turn 10B on. Every single year we've turned 10B on, except for this year. This is the only year up to this point that we haven't turned well 10B on since 2015. I think it demonstrates the commitment of our team, me, the council, but also the partners that we're working with, trying to expedite the work that we're trying to do. So, yeah.
Councilor Spigon?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to start off by saying first, thank you for at least having the update tonight. I appreciate it. I want to try to take a little bit of time, and I understand that you might not be able to give me all the answers tonight, and I recognize that. I had a few questions from residents, neighbors, and I wanted to like put that into perspective with part of the conversation. I know you had mentioned DEP being in contact with Mr. McLaughlin. I reached out to him as well, and you know, it's what he shared with me is the exact same thing you've shared this evening. There's component of the emergency declaration is an action plan. The plan that you were referencing, that entails some different items in there, up to and including rule changes at the local level. Are we exploring those at this point? And does that in any way mesh with what I tried to put forward a few weeks back? Is that action plan part of that overall conversation that you folks said that y'all are working on right now?
Absolutely. I mean, the simple thing to say is yes, absolutely. There's a lot of elements within that. It's 310 CMR 5 or something like that. There's a lot of things, components with it. We're looking at every single one of them, and that's in part of what our conversation with Mass DEP is as well, taking advantage of that opportunity and trying to navigate those things. And we have to submit that action plan, I think by June 29th or something like that. So we're already working on that, and I'll obviously share that with the council before we submit it too.
The other questions I had, and like I said, if you can't answer them tonight, I hope that we'll be able to get answers for the water forum, because I think it'll be part of a larger discussion. I had a resident that wasn't really too informed about the individual that came up several weeks back, Mr. Andrews, about telling, about his whole thing with trying to offer up the land and the water agreement that he wanted to try to establish. They basically wanted to know what the nature of the conversation was, if one was had or not. I want to try to be as clear as possible. If that's something that can't be discussed, obviously Jason's not here. He can't necessarily contribute to what can and cannot be said. If it can't be said tonight, see if it's something that can be shared at the water forum next week. Because I think that's something that I know Councilor Kennedy had talked about as well, and I think some folks still need a little bit of clarification if they're just, I guess, if we say, welcome to the situation, this is what, you're joining us in the middle of it right now. So I think that's something I think we can make note of that. The other questions I had were actually more procedural and statistical. So I know you probably can't give me those this evening, but they certainly relate to what precipitated the alerts, the reverse 911, and the post that was shared on Facebook. I kind of want to get a little idea of what detail went into facilitating that. Like, what are our red lines, if there are any red lines that we have to meet or get to that help allow us to inform people that a situation has now occurred where we need to ask people to conserve more water over, a period of time. Because I think having that granular detail, that statistics, and I think instead of it, I know sometimes when we've discussed levels in the water towers and whatnot, we do it by like levels of feet, but I know we discuss water usage in millions of gallons per day. Is there any way that you can find a way to have that converted into the most up-to-date figures for that? Because I think that might put into perspective how that relates to what our water usage is and also what precipitates how we can enforce things. I think our maximum draw of water per day is about 2 million, if I'm correct on that. So is it a percentage of what our actual daily output is? Is it a component of what the actual amount of gallons are in our system actively being used, or if it is an average of that over a period of time? Say, over the last week and a half, we used 2 million, we actually met the limit of 2 million gallons per day. We did that for like a few days during the week. Is that what precipitates that sending out that message? I think that's something that I think folks would like to have a little more clarification on, because I know to me it's a little confusing sometimes just because not having that granular detail, and I'm a data wonk anyway, so I like to have numbers that are tangible. And the other part is relating more to the work down at 10A, 10B. I'm appreciative of the updates that we've gotten. if there's any more additional details that we can get, like, you know, I guess what the project looks like right now, you know, expenditure to date, and, you know, where we're looking at on the actual, like, solid deadlines and timeframes to get things online. I know summer is a bit vague for the public. If we can provide that specificity, it would be certainly more helpful to folks. And I think for our colleagues, Mr. President, I think that would be helpful so that we can articulate, you know, what the timelines are. Because people, I know for me, from my own personal experience, I thrive on knowing what my due date is, when I need to get something done, and when I need to have something submitted. So I think that's helpful for folks. And like I said, if you can't answer any of these questions right now, I just hope that they can be provided next week in next week's forum or in the interim over the period of time. The other question was, I think I might have lost my train of thought. I apologize, but the other statistical things that I had up here, and I'm just going to check on this. This was another reference I had. Let's see. All right, so I think we've answered that one. Oh, yeah, from a funding standpoint, because a lot of the work that has to be done in the system is going to be obviously borne by the ratepayers, can you give us an update on what our Water Enterprise Fund looks like right now and how much of it is being expended on current projects, including replacement of pipes and mains and the upgrades down at 10A and 10B? I think it helps folks to know where the money is right now, how it's being spent, and what it's being spent on. I think that helps give more clarification as to just, you know, it's great to say we've gone for the $8 million or we've gone for the $2 million. I think having a more detailed explanation of, you know, out of that $8 million, how much has gone to actually procuring the actual material that's building the site or rebuilding some of the systems in town, and then to give that more factual data. I think that's something that we as a council, it would be helpful for us to have, but I also think it's helpful for the public as well. So I think that's pretty much the items that I wanted to really actually tackle tonight, Mr. President, and through you to the town manager. If there's anything that you can answer that's related to my questions tonight, it would be really helpful, because I think even right now at this early stage before the forum, I think having that information will give people more perspective as to what we're dealing with right now. It takes away some of the vagueness and gives us further clarity to understand what is going on, what is being done, and how it's being addressed. And I think that is helpful for everybody. So with that in mind, Mr. President, I'll yield back any remaining time I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just quick, I wrote down, writing down all these things so I can make sure that I am responsive to all your questions. Most of these questions are of a technical nature that I would have to follow up with you on. But what I would say, I'll give you my commitment on our end. As much information that I can give you, I will make sure we're prepared at the water forum to address those questions. You're one of the first submitter of questions, essentially how I look at it. We'll address that. In terms of the question about the Andrews property, once again, Jason doesn't have to be here. I mean, this has been my position before. I was asked directly if anything's been offered to given to me directly. No. However, we are communicating with Mr. Andrews' team, and if there's an opportunity to acquire that property, if someone's interested in donating that property, I know the council president is working with me to have those conversations. So, but I wouldn't get into the technical or anything. That would be something that we would discuss in another manner. So really, that's the only thing that I see on here that I could address. You had mentioned expenditures to date. We can do that. We can lay out what we're looking at for the work at 10A, 10B for this project. So we can do that. We'll make sure we do that, and obviously we'll give a balance about the water enterprise and so forth. So most of those things, pretty much every question that you said, I will be prepared to address at the water forum for you all.
Mr. President, I did have at least one follow-up question. It just popped back into my head. I remember now what it was. For the site at 10B, I'm not sure if I'm asking too much on this one, but the site itself has what will be called a filtration lagoon. I recognize that will filter out some of the stuff in the process. It'll go through the vessels. The material obviously will contain PFAS. How would we be disposing of that, and is that carted off or kept on site in containers, if anything? And I don't know if Azu can answer that one. I think that was part of a patch of questions that I asked him too a few days
That's
ago.
what, I'll have Azu address that because Azu was on site today doing some work that we were doing for the Conservation Commission, so I'll Azu address that. But I also want to double back on what I said, particularly with the Mr. Andrews property. I want to make sure, because I want to be very clear about that. In terms of, has there ever been a communication with me about donating property to the town? That answer is no. We've obviously talked about property, and that would be another discussion in executive session that we would talk about. Okay? I just want to be clear because I don't want anyone to try to misconstrue my statement.
Okay, so the backwash water will be going to a lagoon. That lagoon will evapotranspiration, the solids will settle out. The solids will be hauled off site. Okay, nothing will be disposed on site. Okay, and the test pits, there were some questions. We spent the day today doing test borings, test pits, because there was some question that people raised that potentially where we were going to put, where we're planning to put the lagoon, there was some wetlands filled. We went down with soil borings, 3 of those, strategically put around the lagoon area. We went down 40 feet, and it was all natural virgin soil. So there was no evidence of filling at all. We dug 3 test pits with a Caterpillar 330 machine. We went down 25 to 30 feet, was all virgin soil. And we had people from the Conservation Commission witnessing it as well. So that work will be going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Berg?
Yes, I have been hearing that there are water main problems and that we've been having like unexplained leaks in town, that our supply is finite, but we are going down in the tanks because there is unexplained leaks. Could you please address that?
For example, we had that conversation with Mass DEP today, and we talked about, and Bill does a calculation of our output as well as our usage. We haven't detected any leaks. I think we've talked about the Main Street leaks, for example, replacing the main. We've had a variety of leaks throughout the year that we're trying to address. But in terms of, if you're saying is our tanks dropping because we're having major leaks or something that we haven't addressed, that isn't the case. We had a leak detection survey that we talked about with Jim McLaughlin today. Obviously we found a leak with BSU. We navigated with BSU. We saw a leak there, and we navigated that. We addressed that. So we're actively looking at leaks. We have water scope, and that Bill had mentioned before. So we look at usage, and if we detect anything, we'll obviously try to address it.
Could you please tell us, through the president, about that water leak with BSU and what was found?
I might have to follow up on that one, Councilor Ellenberg, but it was related to a chiller, I believe. I had an update about it earlier. I'll have to follow up with you on it. But I do know that, one, I spoke with the director of facilities over there. I know Bill and his team went on site. We made sure that we addressed it. They brought a plumber and so forth in, and I know that it was addressed.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Through the president, a few more questions. You said that Vernon Street will take a while. Now, that is a supply of water opposite Aquaria. You said there's a potential agreement coming with Aquaria. When is that likely to happen?
Well, I would discuss that with the council moving forward. That's not something I probably would talk about.
Okay, executive session?
Yeah.
Okay. I would urge that Vernon Street be fast-tracked with DEP. Again, my position is that we should be master of our own water supply and not be dependent on others. And Vernon Street would increase our supply substantially.
Yeah, I want to tell you, we know, we've had this conversation several times individually, but also as a council. I think everyone is on the same page there. We want to be the masters of our fate, our masters of our destiny. That's why I've always said Vernon Street absolutely should be a priority. And that was part of the conversation we had with Mass DEP. You know, obviously it's a little bit different than the 10A and 10B, but we did talk about them, and that's part of the conversation that I mentioned with the Lieutenant Governor and with Mass DEP is whatever we can do to expedite the work, and even if it's not the same manner that we did 10A and 10B, whatever we can do to shrink and shorten those timelines, then we want those opportunities to do that. But that is an absolute priority.
And we will be getting grant money, I hope, for the Vernon Street?
Well, we're going to have a CED update moving forward, and we did submit grants related to that, and I'll have our CED director give you an update regarding that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Trocchio, and then Lindy.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you. So I think what I keep hearing is that we need to set the standard for water usage. So I heard Councilor Lindy talk about, you know, there's signs around town that says, hey, I'm trying to power wash your house. But I think we're eventually probably going to either have to get to some sort of building moratorium or water moratorium or hookup moratorium. But from what I understand is our form of government is that we have the planning board, then us. So my question to you is there anything, so I have two big projects that are potentially scheduled to, that are in the approval process in my district. And there's been consistent talk of people from my district asking for a water impact statement. I'd like to see those two projects, given the current circumstances, have a water impact statement. Is there anything that this council can do, or that I can do, or that you can do to have the planning board make that a requirement in this town for future projects? So that way we're able to have a higher level of scrutiny. We have information to make decisions, and I don't feel comfortable just having only the planning board with that. Is there anything in this body that can do that, just specifically for those two projects?
Well, not specific for those two projects, but you said, what can we do in the future? And you have an ordinance that your fellow counselor submitted to try to address that we collaborated on, because that is just the nature of how it's been in the past. That's not an indication of maybe how we need to operate in the future, because sometimes those water impact statements were required by the planning board or whoever the project may have been, planning board, CED, whatever. That's what's happened in the past. But you do have an ordinance that's been submitted by a counselor addressing that. And we've collaborated on that. I think Councilor Kennedy can attest to that, and we're trying to navigate that one as well. And I know you have fellow councilors who've signed on to that and have talked about that previously as well.
But, excuse me, is there any way that we can retroactively apply that standard to those two projects?
I don't see any way you can do that, but obviously, you know, I think we should have Jason speak to that as well. Retroactively, I don't see any way that you can do that.
No.
Thank you.
But I would add this too. We also have to remember, planning board is it's an independent body. So there's barriers in place. For example, I can't dictate to them what the planning board do, nor can you. We can obviously put ordinances in place, put rules and regulations in place, but I don't have any mechanism to go and say, planning board, you didn't do this, change, et cetera. That's not within my purview, and respectfully is it in the councilors either. But that's what you have these ordinances for, to put the zoning regulations. We could do updated water rules and regulations. I mentioned before, that's something we absolutely need to do. We've talked about it a long time. I'd like to get that done. And as soon as we can shift to doing that, we should get that done. We need to have a protocol. We need to set a standard, and something that every department, every business that comes in, if we're doing development, the council, the planning board, we're all on the same page. We understand how we do business here, what our expectations are, and have a standard for moving forward.
Also, Lindy.
I don't know if I can actually get an answer to this question, and I'm not trying to put the town manager on the spot, but I kind of remember from back a couple of years ago that the Vernon Street well project would cost something like $58 million. I don't know if that number is a correct number, but if it was a couple of years ago, costs have probably gone up. What would we have to do that? We'd have to bond it, and then the ratepayers would pay the cost of that? How does that work?
Well, any work of that significance, I apologize off the top of my head. I know where it is on the master plan. I don't know the figure there, but assuming that figure was correct, obviously, that was 2 years ago, you had a master plan. That figure would probably be increased, but a figure of that amount, you're gonna probably do a loan authorization for it. But also, there's a couple of mechanisms you try to fund it. We try to either fund it through grants or some subsidization there. We would apply for the water state revolving fund, which generally gives you low interest loans. I think we would try to do that to minimize the costs for users as best as possible. But if those avenues aren't there, then we have to have a conversation. If it's work that we want to get done, you got to fund it. And you would definitely do a loan authorization. You don't have that funding within your enterprise fund to like pay cash for it or anything like that.
And I agree that we should be masters of our own destiny too.
Councilor Stone?
I had another follow-up question, Mr. President, through you to the town manager. I know there's been discussion about the Vernon Street well fields. Are you aware of anything over by Lake Nipponicket? It had been brought to my attention by a neighbor that there may be a potential to have a wellhead over on Lake Nipponicket, because I understand that is one of our larger water resources. There is an aquifer in that area, and I'm not sure if it's within the area of critical environmental concern, but that is certainly another area we could possibly take a look at, seeing as our neighbors in Rainham have a water facility over on that side of the lake, but I think we have a sliver of land over there that may be available. I would say add that possibly to the list of other places that we could find effectively another source of water that could potentially help us for the long term. I know it's not an immediate fix, but it is certainly, for a long-term planning perspective, a long-term goal that I would like to see. Getting back to, I'm just going to rewind it a bit, back to the issue with the water notification that we got. If we get to a point where we don't have sufficient water reserves at the time in town, I was wondering if there's any way we can call in for another blue drop system, or an outside vendor, or bringing in water trucks. I know I'm not sure, what that would entail, what kind of logistics that would be. I suspect that transportation of water would be expensive, but is that something that would be on our radar for any particular contingencies if we had any issues with anything else happening at this point with the water system?
Yeah, the Blue Drop machine generally uses our water supply, actually is from our water supply, so for that one I would address that. It wouldn't make a difference there for us there. There's an issue when you're transporting water about it being potable water. So we have regulations as Mass DEP prescribes. That was something that we discussed with Mass DEP. I think I'll be able to give you a little bit more information regarding that, but that poses some challenges. In regards to the wellhead, once again, we're going to look at all those options there, and at the water forum, we'll talk about the wellhead process and new well redevelopment, because that was one of the reasons why when we talked about Mass DEP about expediting Vernon Street, they're going to look at whatever they can do, but it is a little more. And Vernon Street is a permitted well, but because it's at a different stage of where 10A and 10B were, they can't expedite it in the same fashion that we have 10A and 10B. So I want people to be aware, we are going to look at those things. We are looking at these alternative and long-term things as well, but that does take a long time. There is no quick solution for that one.
Councilor Ellenberg?
Yes. Mr. Town Manager, you and we had a conversation that there is another company which is out of Pembroke, which has a hut where you can purchase water with your jugs. I understand they charge 50 cents per jug, which is kind of an outrage since people are already paying for the water, but it might be quality water, and people are very concerned about the quality and not having 10B in the mix of the Blue Drop. So I just wanted to let people know that is potentially an option. I don't know if residents would be upset with that, or would they welcome a cleaner source of water for the Blue Drop alternative?
I will acknowledge we had that conversation, and I think I've said before, because this conversation has occurred previously, you know, if that's something that this council thinks merits consideration, you, just as you've had several other resolutions presented, you can put a resolution on there and say you'd like me to pursue something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but that is also in conjunction, we have looked, and I'm gonna take every opportunity to talk about the work we're doing, but the Blue Drop, we've looked at another site for a Blue Drop. I mentioned before, we looked at the senior center. That was the ideal spot. Unfortunately, operationally, for the senior center and for the water park, it didn't work. So we narrowed now down to 2 other sites, and it looks like there's only 1 site that we're potentially looking at. So in the next fiscal year, we'll probably potentially be looking at adding another Blue Drop. So that is on our radar, and that Blue Drop is a reverse osmosis system. It is PFAS free, so you know, that's work that we are looking at.
Will there be still brown water coming from 10B through the Blue Drop?
No, there you don't.
No? Okay.
That water doesn't come from 10B at the Blue Drop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Where does it come from? Which well?
It comes from your it's High Street treatment plant, right? Yeah, it's a distribution system. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional water questions? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
No.
I'm going to make a motion to suspend the rules and extend the meeting time by 30 minutes to 10:30.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Spagone. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
No. I'm gonna, Mr. President, could I address something?
That's 7-2 on the vote, Debbie.
That's
You
fine.
said no.
I did,
And I did.
and Paul did.
You did? Okay.
So, on this point of these meetings, I want, and I'll say it in my council comments, but I want to say it now. We cannot have 1 meeting a month in July and August, because this meeting, which is a regularly scheduled meeting, is at this point. The last meeting was, the meeting before was. If we have 1 meeting a month, we're going to be here till 2 in the morning. So we can't have an agenda this packed. It's just too much.
I agree.
Nothing well gets accomplished after 2 hours, in my opinion.
Town Manager, FY 27 update.
I want to, since this is potentially the last meeting before we get into next fiscal year, I wanted to take a quick update to say that obviously, as the council knows, because of these reductions in hours for staff, starting July 1st, town hall hours will be changed, will change from their current hours. We'll make sure we message that on our social media, our Facebook page. We've already put signs up for those, what the summer hours will be starting July 1st. And that will be 8 to 4, 8 to 4 Monday through Thursday, from July to August. And then we'll have extended hours on Tuesday from 8 to 7 starting in September. I'm going to ask the community, and I will, you know, obviously ask the council to assist with this. I ask the community to have patience with our team. As I mentioned before, we are losing, based on this budget, 30,000 plus productivity hours. The work does not lower. The demand from the community doesn't lower at times, but we don't have the hours to do all that work. Please have patience with my staff. We are working as hard as we can for you. We want to work hard for you, but there's limited hours. So there may be times when a department isn't staffed or an email isn't getting responded as quickly as what we've done before. Please have patience. It took a lot of sacrifice by all our team. I reiterate, for most of our non-public safety staff, it's 5-hour reduction coming in this next fiscal year. So please work with us as we navigate that. And I'll make sure I message that accordingly. CED up. I'll just go to CED update unless there's questions there. We're good.
Justin, I'll just say quickly on the budget piece, because it eats at me every single day having to look at these numbers. But, you know, the reduction in staff hours, the library situation, the senior center situation, the overtime with our public safety, it's all a result of the way the community voted on the last override. And I completely understand and respect that decision. Folks asked us to live within our means, and that's exactly what we're doing right now. So if folks are unhappy with the way that we're living within our means and using our budget, which is public information about where that money's going, then we need to start the conversation right now about FY28. And so I hope that as a team, as citizens, as a council, we can come together and start that conversation sooner rather than later. And I hope that myself, taking my town councilor hat off, and as a citizen, we can look at the town services we're providing and say that's not good enough, right? It's not good enough for our families who need to use the library, or our seniors who need to use the senior center, or any of us that needs to depend on public safety. There is a funding issue, and we could blame the state and the federal government, but I've said it over and over again, nobody's coming to save Bridgewater, and we need to start having that conversation right now about FY28 so that we're not in this situation a year from now. But that eats at us every single day, and it's just becoming more and more evident. So respecting the voter's choice to live within our means and understanding when residents send us emails about the library and funding the library, the money's just not there because we voted consciously down an override, all right? And so it's a very difficult situation, but I hope that that's the message going forward too. There's there's small adjustments we can make between now and FY28, but there's a bigger issue that we need to solve. And I refuse to sit here like past select boards or councils who neglected our water situation because they chose not to address it, and we're in the situation we're in now. I'm not gonna do that with our budget. So I hope that folks hear that and understand the bigger message that we need to address. But that was my message on the FY27 piece. But I know it eats at me. I know it eats at fellow councilors. It's an unfortunate situation, and we're going to continue to hear about it as the year progresses. So just keep that in mind. But we need to find a way to solve this or address it. So thank you. But
No, I appreciate that. And I know the council has been talking about this. I'm talking about this. We can't do more with less. We've talked about this. So that's the message that we have to say. And, I've received emails, and just like you all, the library, we've heard it from the senior center. But it's so much more beyond that. And there's so much going on in town hall. I don't get an email about our assessors department, but our assessors department has 2 people. And one of them is not going to be even a full-time position. Our assessors department, which actually generates the revenue for this town, the majority of the revenue for the town, is not staffed appropriately. Or our inspectional service department that actually generates revenue that can actually help support the library and all the other services that we do. I had to reduce the hours for that staff there. I could go down line by line for department and so many other personnel members of this team who work really hard, but it's unfortunate this is where we're at, and we try to navigate to try to minimize service reductions as best as possible and try to save as much jobs as possible, considering we had an independent party, the Collins Center, come do a review and tell us how lean we are in comparison to our other communities, and we're not even close. It's just a situation we're all in. It's not just me, it's you, it's the community, and we've got to navigate it.
thank you. CD?
CD, I'll have Bob give a quick update here.
I'll be brief. As Mr. Hunt mentioned, we're finishing up the Summer Street Park. They have to be done contractually by the end of the month. In that area, this spring, we got just under $500,000 to do that intersection of Plymouth and Summer Street through Complete Street Grant. The engineering for that is being paid for by Bridgewater State. They donated $100,000 to the town for us to retain niche engineering to do that work. Once that design is done, the project will go out to bid. Also, this spring, we got another $500,000 to continue the shared streets program with BSU to do the sidewalks that we started 2 years ago. So all of that is coming together. Pedestrian and traffic improvements, which we've talked about quite a bit for the last 2 years. With respect to the one-stop grants, I submitted 4 on behalf of the town, 3 related to water infrastructure. The manager and I had a call with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities before the deadline, just to understand, so they understood our urgency and we understood the parameters of what we were applying for. So depending on what program it is, whether it was infrastructure or housing works, the monies have to be expended by a certain date. So it's not a long date. And they are looking for shovel-ready. So we can't say, as an example, if it was a $10 million project, we need $10 million because we don't have any plans or even a budget. So all of the monies that I put in for were preliminary engineering and design, because that gives us the widest berth. So associated with that, we have 3 requests in for a total of $2.5 million. You also have a request in through Congressman Keating for congressionally directed earmark funding for $1 million. We got $2 million earlier this year for, so hopefully they're hearing you and your message that you want to be in compliance with MBTA communities, but you also need some assistance. They've heard that from the manager and myself, and hopefully that funding will happen. Normally, they don't make those announcements until late summer, and you're not able to get a contract until the fall. They did say if you were awarded funding, they would work with the town to expedite you being able to move forward with some of these projects. Any questions?
Councilor McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. Rowley. That $1 million from Keating, is that only directed to the MBTA?
No.
We can use it for anything?
It was put in for water infrastructure.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I mean, I just want to caveat that could happen this year, or it could happen in 2 years. It's all a matter of how Congress moves it through appropriations.
Councilman McGrath, though, take advantage of this opportunity, Bob. We submitted new earmark requests to Congressman Keating as well as Senator Markey, Senator Warren, but we also have the MBTA grant through Congressman, not the earmark for the MBTA platform through Congressman Keating's office.
You just recently got notified that you have $1 million to do the feasibility to relocate the platform. That money has been approved.
And that is specifically geared to the MBTA, though. I heard your question. I just want to be clear on that.
Seeing no additional questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
If there's no other question, I do want to acknowledge Bob, this is probably our last meeting until July. It's part of our transition with budget and so forth. We're having some transition in our CED department. So this would be Bob's last meeting on the town. I do want to acknowledge that work since I've been here, of the work that Bob has done. He's helped my office. He's helped our team with applying for a significant amount of grants. He was part of the team. He wrote what we needed to do to submit the grant for the for the project that we're doing at 10A, 10B, where we got $2 million. Over the span of his time here, I think CEDs have received over $7.5 million in grant funding that he's been a part of. So I do think it's important to acknowledge that before he transitions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Councilor Perry.
No. I just wanted to thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to thank Bob for his work and his time with the town. He's done a lot of good things for us, the grant writing and vision to reality, and certainly seeing the project of the fire station to its completion. So I thank you for your time and your work here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Next item, Councilor Murphy asked me to follow up on the resident survey. We did receive some other feedback from our fellow councilors. We're going to try to incorporate that in. Our plan is to try to submit that resident survey fairly soon. We just need to make sure, because we're encouraging people to do the survey online, but we're also cognizant of people going to the senior center or coming in and maybe want to do some paperwork, paper response. So we're trying to make sure that we have save workers in place to help with the data collection of it, because I don't have the personnel to do that. So once that's in place, then we will release the resident survey. But we've incorporated the feedback from everyone and we're ready to move forward.
Thank you. Councilor Lindy.
No one will be surprised by this, but I'd like to see it over at the library, too.
It will, Jed is still here. It will definitely be over the library. They're very good at that.
Thank you.
Is there any way that we can see the questions of what the survey is?
Yeah, we sent it to the council before, and we'll send it again to you.
Okay,
like, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any future items for the town manager at this time? Don't need to. Councilor McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. President, through you to the town manager. Mr. Casanova Davis, I saw in your town manager's operating report that you're very involved in the MMA, and you talked about it, but I also, and you're on a lot of committees. But I see that you're on the Future Managers Committee, which is to get the next generation in local government. I know when things quiet down, I hope that you can be a mentor, because when I was campaigning, most of the people in their 20s and 30s had no idea that was voting, and they had no idea what form of government they were. So to get them involved would be great.
Okay, seeing none, we will move on the agenda. We have no discussions this evening, so we will quickly go to committee reports. Plymouth County Advisory Board update. If we could get a quick update from Councilor Lindy.
Sure. As the delegate from Bridgewater, I want to report this out, and I have draft minutes, but I couldn't release them to go into the agenda until they become official minutes, so I'll just read what I was sent. I had Councilor McGrath go with me as my alternate, and Councilor Spagone also went down, and I know in the past, Councilor Ellenberg had gone to a meeting as well. Which they're all open to the public. So the annual meeting and public hearing of the Plymouth County Advisory Board was held on Thursday, June 4th, at the County of Plymouth Administration Building. There was a quorum, 64.27%, which represented 15 out of the 27 communities. And there were various county officials there, all the commissioners were there, the current administrator, the administrator in training, the treasurer, the deputy treasurer, the register of deeds, all sorts of folks. There was a public hearing on the FY27 revenues and the FY2027 budget. Chairman Mark Townsend opened the hearing, and the budget was the budget was passed with a motion that I made and seconded by Dan Salvucci of Whitman. They did not include the number in the budget. I will get you that information when I submit more paperwork. There was a nomination for a vacant executive board position, which is the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and
You know, if there's like a general update, just to keep it moving.
I'm going to keep I'm going to keep it moving. I'll
Thank
keep
you.
it under 3 minutes if
Thank
I
you.
can. The elected Laura Fitzgerald Kemet of Hanson to fill the vacancy. They will be voting to elect a vice chair for the executive board. They accepted the minutes. There are 2 meetings a year, basically, October 23rd, 2025. The 4-H program came in. 2 young women from the 4-H program, which is funded by the county, came in and did a fantastic job. Treasurer O'Brien did an update on the Plymouth County Retirement Board. Treasurer highlighted the net return for the calendar year, 13.51%, and the 41-year annualized return of 9.05%, placing the Plymouth County Retirement in the top quartile of public pension systems. They discussed and voted on county revenues. They voted Chapter 64D, which was the deeds excise tax. They also voted an additional secondary on the deeds excise tax, and the Plymouth County budget was passed for 2027. That meeting was a lot quicker than ours. It started at 6 o'clock and ended at 7:03. So that's the report.
Councilor McGrath, anything else to add?
Yeah, it was interesting that they brought up the pension, and we're not fully funded. Most towns aren't. The state wants us to be fully funded by 2040, but the Plymouth County Pension Association wants it done by 2031. So being the chair of the Finance and Budget, we'll focus on pension and what plans we can use. That's all for that. The Finance and Budget Committee did meet, and I'll just, if you want me to tell the votes as they come in.
Thank you, yes. Yep. Okay, we will move on to legislation for action. All right, buckle up. Let's see how we can get through this. We'll start with Order O, FY 26-051. This is the declaration of the downtown corridor, Bridgewater, a blight area. I do believe we need to amend the counselors at the top. So I will take a motion for amendment, and then we can go back to it. Councilor McGrath, if there's anything to add.
Motion to amend, Mr. President.
What's the motion?
Well, motion to amend the,
Sponsor?
yeah, motion to amend the sponsor to switch out the previous counselor to another counselor.
Mr. President, I would like Ken Kevin Perry to be the co-sponsor since he's working on this with me.
So
far.
do you want to withdraw that motion and allow Councilor McGrath?
I'll withdraw the motion, Mr. President.
Thank you. Councilor McGrath, do you
All
want to
right.
make that formal
I would
motion?
like to make an amendment to change Johnny Loretti's name to Kevin Perry's.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Any discussion? All those in favor on the amendment?
Aye.
Okay, back to the legislation itself. I will take a motion and a second, and then we'll have discussion.
Motion to send it to CEDC since downtown revitalization was dissolved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion made by
Second.
Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Any discussion on this item before we refer?
I believe we have a couple amendments to make on this.
Yes.
Because we can't do it in CDC. So in the order of OFY 26051, declare, we're going to take out the downtown corridor, and we're going to put the areas as shown in Exhibit A, maps 1 and 2.
That's in the title.
Yes. And that exact same wording is going to be down at therefore. We're going to take out the exact same words and add the exact same words.
Just a point of information, Mr. President, what exactly is the word change again?
The words down in therefore, when it says Chapter 21B, that,
Take out corridor.
and add the areas as shown on Exhibit A and B, Exhibit A, maps 1 and 2, sorry.
Are you all set with that?
And there's one more, in the second whereas.
Why don't we just, is it the same language?
No, it's
Okay,
different,
let's take
yeah.
this motion, then we'll go to
Oh,
another
okay.
one, just for clarity purposes. Okay, so we have a motion made by Councilor McGrath,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Perry. Any discussion on the amendment? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that amendment's good. Councilor McGrath?
So in the order 0FY26051, at the very end, it says blight area. We need to add ED to blight.
And in the main title.
And at the second whereas, the existence of such blight, and we have to add ED. And that's all the amendments.
Second.
Okay, the motion made by Councilor McGrath, seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, back to the original legislation. We have a motion and a second to refer to CE. Yes?
I was going to discuss the motion or the article itself. Is this the
Yes.
time?
Yep, so the motion's been made in the second, so we'll open for discussion.
Okay, I am opposed to declaring our downtown blighted. I think that is a very bad thing to do because it will lower property values for everyone in the town. Also, if you look at these maps, it goes all the way up to High Street and Mary Lane, down Main Street, where there's just houses, there are not businesses, okay? And then we have a whole section here by the BSU, Burrill, Park Avenue, School Street, all these. Now, if these are declared as blighted, okay, then we need to make sure that it's applied only to business land and not homeowners' homes. Because if you have someone who's in the district with a home that's within the blighted area, we are talking about losing value on the sale price of their house. I don't think this is a smart thing, and I think this sets a bad example for the town. Lastly, I'd like to point out one counselor owns 15 properties in town, which might be a conflict of interest.
Any further discussion? Councilor Perry? I mean, Councilor Lindy?
On this whole subject, what we're trying to do is refer it to the CED committee so there can be further discussion on it. I think, albeit a negative title, I think there are opportunities for funding to fix up the blighted area. So that, I think, was the spirit of the motion. I sat on that downtown revitalization committee. Some of those properties, even individual properties, are in my district, and if you go down some of those streets, they're pretty blighted-looking buildings, okay? Hopefully, there would be opportunities to get some money to fix them up. So I think this just sends it to a committee, and then councilors can be involved in that committee. It'll then come back to this council, and we can debate it further.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President, I just want to clarify, when we're going to conduct an inventory of the areas, and it will be only the area, the houses, businesses that are blighted. It won't be declaring an area blighted, doesn't affect everyone's. It's just so we can do a inventory and conduct a survey of the buildings that need to be fixed up and stuff like that. And it makes no difference if the area, if anybody lives in that area, owns property, because it's going to be done by the CDC, and then we send it to the Massachusetts, and we go by regulations.
Thank you. Council McGrath, Council Hunt?
Yes. I was just going to agree.
Okay.
I'm fine for us passing it.
Any further comments, discussion? Council Hondo?
Yes. We have another article in tonight's agenda, which says that there shall be Central Square property maintenance standards. And so that's trying to get the business owners to clean up their properties. So rather than declaring blight, why don't we just enforce these maintenance standards in town? That would be much more positive and would not put a negative spin on our town.
Okay, I'm going to take the motion in a second, so we're going to take a vote. All those in favor to refer, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, it's going to CED.
Okay, 9-0. Thank you. Moving on to Order O FY 26-072, Water Enterprise Fund, year-end budget transfer. I will defer to the town manager. The Finance Committee did vote 5-0 to approve. Debbie, just check my numbers on these, 5-0 to approve. And then Councilor McGrath, we also voted 3-0 to approve.
Correct. It was 5-0 because one member came in late.
Right. Anything additional?
We talked about this before. Most of these transfers are year-end budget transfers, ensuring we close out the fiscal year correctly and meeting the expenses associated with these departments. So,
Thank you. Any, I don't think I took a motion, so. I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Spagone. Any additional discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor to vote?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 9-0. Okay, Order O FY 26-073, Sewer Enterprise, end of the year budget transfer. I'll take a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Hunt, seconded by Councilor Perry. Any additional discussion? It was voted 5-0 by the Finance Committee, and anything additional to add, Councilor McGrath?
It's the Budget and Finance 3-0 approved.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 9-0. Order O FY 26-074, Transfer Station Enterprise Fund, year-end budget transfer. I will take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Spagone. Any discussion? Finance Committee voted, is again 5-0, and Budget and Finance voted.
The
Councilor McGrath?
transferred, this is the transfer station one?
Yes, transfer station.
The Finance voted 5 and 1 abstained.
Thank you.
And our Budget and Finance 3-0 to approve.
Excellent, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to Order O FY 26-075, General Fund End of the Year Transfers. I will take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Spagone, seconded by Councilor Lindy. It was voted again 5.
6-0 to approve at Finance, and Budget and Finance 3-0 approved.
Any discussion from the councilors? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to Order O FY 26-076, Contractual Buyouts. Finance Committee and Budget and Finance?
Finance is 6-0 approved, budget and finance 3-0 approved.
I didn't take a motion again, so I'll take a motion.
So
Motion to
moved.
approve.
Motion made by Counselor Perry,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Hunt. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Order O FY 26077, transfer order, sewer capital fund transfer. I will take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Counselor Spagone,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Trocchio. Votes.
Finance 6-0 approved, budget and finance 3-0 approved.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to order O FY 27006, CPA reserve accounts, FY 2027. We'll take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Spagone, seconded by Counselor Hunt. And can we get the votes?
Finance 6-0 approved, budget and finance 3-0 approved.
Any additional discussion from counselors? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. President,
9-0.
did I miss it, or did we skip over the one that's the sewer capital? We did that, okay,
did.
thank you.
Okay, moving to Resolution R, FY 26017, resolution regarding full funding for the Bridgewater Public Library. I believe there are some amendments that need to be made.
Motion to amend, Mr. President.
Second.
Made by Counselor Spagone, seconded by Counselor Lindy. The motion is,
The motion to amend Resolution RFY 26017 to include the following items. Add co-sponsor, Michaela Spagone, Counselor. Title change from resolution regarding full funding of the Bridgewater Public Library
let's,
budget.
if we could, Counselor Spagone,
Oh,
let's take
sorry.
them one at a time, just so we make sure that our council clerk gets them and we can vote on them clearly.
My
We'll do
apologies.
it quickly, though.
Yep. So read each one off or just,
Yep, so,
Okay.
why don't we take that motion to amend and add counselor name?
okay.
Want to clarify your name?
Motion to amend co-sponsor name, Michaela Spagone,
Okay.
Counselor.
We need a second on that.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Lindy. Any discussion on that piece? All those in favor on that amendment?
Aye.
Any opposed? None.
Alright.
Another motion?
Motion to amend the title from the existing resolution regarding full funding of the Bridgewater Public Library budget to Library Emergency Allocation of Resources Now, Learn Resolution.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Lindy. Any discussion?
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
What is the resource now, learn? You're gonna, library emergency allocation, a resource now?
Yeah.
Are you taking it from a fund?
This is a resolution asking for this to take place,
So
regarding,
now is mean you want it now? Oh.
like, we're trying to start this process now. So that's,
And what does learn mean?
It's just an
it's an acronym.
Acronym.
For what?
For,
oh, this.
if you look at
Oh,
each
okay.
of the
I
words,
was
it
confused.
spells out as the word learn.
Unfortunately, it's a
We're
small,
doing it now.
yes,
Got it.
it's a small trait I learned from when I interned in Congress.
All
Give
righty.
things a snappy name so people will remember it.
I have
Okay, we
not
have a
been
motion and a
Congress yet.
second. Any additional discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
The next amendment would be to add the following language. Whereas the Bridgewater Public Library is an important resource to the residents and greater regional community, and whereas
I'll second that.
all right, so those amendments, we're doing it all as one whole.
We're adding things from the other resolution into this resolution.
I think, Mr. President, just as a point of order, I just would say we could take all the whereases probably as one vote.
You have it all? It's in here?
She has.
Why didn't you tell me that the first time?
The council clerk put all the additional language in bold, and the original language is just in regular type.
Okay.
I thought, honestly, Mr. President, I thought it was just going to be the motion to amend it with the following items in there, and that was the full amendment. But since we went through it line by line, I'm I'm wondering if we can amend the current motion to basically include what Mr. Lindy just said, the amended language on the whereases, take that all as one.
Point of order.
Yes.
Mr. President. It may be similar to what Councilor Perry mentioned. We just, an amendment to simply substitute the language in the resolution with this new amended resolution may be sufficient to cover all the language.
I agree. You were going to make that motion?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Councilor Lindy. Any discussion?
Just for clarification, Mr. President, are we voting on what is on page 69 of our agenda, basically?
Correct, yes, to replace the language.
69 and 70.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional
I
discussion?
have one more
Council-
question. So we're voting to change our town budget to advocate money for the library?
No.
No.
This is just the language of the resolution at this point in time.
But are we going to vote on this tonight? Or are we going to have it all put in one resolution so we can understand it better?
That is the one, my belief is that amendment is the one resolution. So this is the new language we would be going by.
So it's combined with this and this?
Substituted.
Replaced with that
So
one.
we just don't have a department head who sponsors it or anything like on this?
It's in the language, Counselor. It should be in there. And-
After the amendments, we can go ahead and vote on the whole this evening.
Okay, and that's, I mean, we've changed we're allocating from our budget.
Again,
Not allocating anything.
it's a resolution. So it's just.
We're asking the town manager to look into
do
the
it.
situation and report back to us. We're not actually asking for,
Not
there's no
directing him
amount
to
in
do it.
here or
Okay,
directing him.
so even though we just had the agreement and using the other money, we're still asking him to look for this?
Just aspirational in nature.
Okay.
Any additional discussion on this amendment? Okay, we have a motion and a second for the language to be replaced on
I'll
page
make the
69.
motion.
Second?
The motion and second was
Yeah, it
already made.
Oh, okay.
So we're just voting on it.
So we'll take a vote to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 9-0. Now back to the legislation itself with the new, as amended. Any additional discussion?
So, Mr. President and fellow councilors, I'd like to thank the different people that came here tonight. First of all, the director for clarifying, what all the requirements are for municipal appropriation requirements and materials and everything like that. As some of the speakers discussed, library trustees, libraries on life support, this is our way to get to the table to have the Mass Board of Library Commissioners consider giving us a waiver. It's a Band-Aid. I have thoughts on what I would have liked to do in terms of dollar figures, similar to what we did with the school department, but doesn't look like we have the support for that. This at least heads us in the right direction. The town manager and the library director and the library trustees, which is an elected body just like us, worked really hard on trying to figure this out. It's not the world's best solution, but it's a solution, a partial solution for now. And as Councilor Murphy said in his remarks before, the voters told us to live within our means. This is our attempt to try to do that and keep the library afloat. We don't want it to leak water. We don't want it to sink. We want it to stay afloat. It's a resource. I have gotten more emails on this. It rivals water. And I've only got one negative email on the whole thing. Everybody that I've talked to or got a text or a phone call or an email wants our library to stay certified and to stay in compliance. It gives us a chance. So I would hope that my fellow councilors would support this.
Thank you, Councilor Lindy. Any additional discussion? Okay. All those in favor for the resolution as amended, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, moving on, but it is 10:30, so I will need another motion.
Make a motion, Mr. President, to extend the meeting till 11 o'clock at maximum.
Second.
Motion made by Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Aye.
7-2.
7-2. Counselor Kennedy.
I did.
He's tired.
Yep. Yep.
Moving on, zoning ordinance D FY 26-009, zoning ordinance amendment. This legislation will need to be amended. So I will take any motions to amend.
Can we open it up first? I'm just gonna move this along. Do we need to amend it to continue moving this forward, or can we just take a vote to send it to CED?
I believe we need to amend it.
We have to put a different sponsor on it.
We have to put a different sponsor, okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to make the motion to amend and add Counselor McGrath as the sponsor.
Second.
And remove Counselor Loretti.
A second.
Motion made by myself and seconded by Counselor Perry. Sorry, Counselor McGrath. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 9-0. Okay, can I take a motion to approve?
No.
Excuse me, motion to refer to CED.
Motion made.
Second.
You're referring
Made
it
by
to
Counselor Perry.
CEDC.
I got you.
C.
C. Motion made by Counselor Perry. I didn't get a second, sorry. I got
Yes,
a
you did.
second.
Counselor Spigot.
Counselor
sorry,
Spigot
I'm sorry.
seconded. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor to
Aye.
refer.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to proposed ordinance D FY 22-007, Bridgewater Town Charter, Article 2, Legislative Branch Term Limits. Let's take a motion to approve first.
I think we need to refer to rules and procedures.
No.
You got to change the sponsors on that one.
Sponsors.
Oh,
I'm gonna make a motion to amend based on the state guidelines to the state's recommended wording, which is on page 76.
We need to amend the
out.
introduction first.
This was already passed through the state. Yeah.
So we're good with it?
It's in the state. The state sent it back and said you need to change the wording, so that's what you're changing.
Do we have to do that, or can we just hold it off and ask the attorney next town council meeting if we?
All right, I'll rescind the motion. Motion to postpone to the next meeting.
Second.
All those in favor of postponing?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, 9-0. Proposed ordinance D FY 22-009, Bridgewater Town Charter, Article 3, Elected Officials Recall Provision.
Motion to postpone again to next meeting on this, Mr.
Second.
President.
Motion made by Counselor Perry, seconded by Counselor Kennedy. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of postpone?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I think you'll need a new sponsor on this one.
Yeah, we're gonna deal with it next time. So we're moving on to new business. Order O FY 26-078, Bridgewater Charter Review Committee. Just quickly, this is a order introduced by myself and Councilor McGrath. I attended the first Charter Review Committee meeting. Their focus was really on organizing themselves. The meeting's available online for any of those that weren't able to catch it. One of the topics came up was the review or discussion of the form of government we have here in Bridgewater. The committee discussed amongst itself for a brief period of time whether it was in their purview to discuss a form of government change. Several members on the committee also expressed that they were on past committees who did explore this when we originally changed our form of government, I believe in 2010 or thereabouts. They expressed the time and effort and resources that went into making the change in form of government and the outreach that occurred. And so through those conversations with coordination of our town attorney, it was mentioned to me that the town council does have the purview to define the scope of the Charter Review Committee since we are the ones putting the charge forth. And so I spoke to the committee members, and I ultimately ended up sponsoring this order that hopefully better directs the Charter Review Committee so that they do not have to focus on form of government. Now, before we go on, I do want to say, again, just because it's my legislation, I am not against any discussion about form of government. My belief is that if that were to occur or should occur in the future, I believe that a separate ad hoc committee should be formed, and that should be the sole focus of that committee, just due to the time and resources. So that is why I put this together. That is why I put it before you today. And I will take a motion in a second, and then we can have discussion.
Motion.
Second?
Again, as far as our
We're gonna
direction.
Motion it to rules and procedures.
Motion to rules and procedures.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Hunt.
Question, Mr. President?
Discussion, yes.
Just for the sake of expediting the process, would it be better served just to keep it at council level so we can get this back to them as soon as possible to direct them? But again, it could go either way. I'm just looking at time frame for the charter committee to do their work.
They do have a meeting next Wednesday, and I believe their intent is to discuss this again because they still don't have any direction from the council. And so, I guess to answer your question, I'm not opposed to it, but
If we keep it at council level, then we can take it back up again and discuss it at our next meeting. And if we make a decision on that, that would obviously let them, have direction going forward for their meetings. I just don't know if there's any additional input from rules and procedures that we would need in order for the council to make a decision on this.
Councilor Lindy?
Just kind of point of information. I don't know when the next Rules and Procedures Committee meeting is because I'm not on it, but we don't have meetings yet besides the one meeting, and hopefully some committee work will be done during the summer. They do have their meeting next week, and I just think it's better to discuss it, Rules and Procedures, than send it back to us and give them some direction. I think this is a good move to give direction because unfortunately in our different documents, there's not a lot of charges to committees. I think this is a good way to go, and I thank you guys for bringing this forth.
Councilor McGrath?
So when you brought this up, I looked into it. Instead of having an ad hoc committee, back in the day, they had a town government study committee, and they actually had Jeff Nutty, the town manager of Town of Franklin, to come and speak, because they explored looking at changing their government because Franklin was successful with town manager to handle everyday administrative and financial needs more efficiently. So they chose to go the town council way. So if you look at the 2014-2015 Charter Review Recommendation Report, the final report, their objective said that guidance for the review of the charter and the Charter Review Committee is provided, and they give you a website. It says that the committee undertakes an examination to determine the charter's ongoing utility and accuracy. It says that such committees are formed to review the charter and to make recommendation to its appointed body, which is the town council, regarding the need for additions, deletions, clarifications, or other amendments that would impact the charter. The role of such committee can be important in ensuring that the charter is working as intended, but the charter review has no assigned role in achieving any changes beyond its recommendations to its appointing body. The Bridgewater Charter Review Committee chose to follow these guidelines, and Ed added a couple more, and the committee voted on it, provided needed clarity in areas where interpretation have been an issue, tighten up language to ensure charter intentions is being fulfilled, and considering additional content, as, if they want to do a recall provision or change votes. So it's very clear of what they were meant to be. So if they wanted to look at it, it's not within their charter, but they can form a town committee. I wouldn't do an ad hoc committee. If residents want to form a town committee, they have a basics with the study that's already been done, and they can speak to Ed because he was the chair of it.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to refer to rules and procedure. So I will take a vote for that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
8-1. Okay. Moving on to Order O FY 26079, acceptance of gift, Lepecki Family Trust. I'll refer to the town manager.
I just want to know, so the town is receiving a gift of $125,860 from the Lepecki's Trust. As we had mentioned before, I think when concerning the donation to the 4th of July celebration, these can be used for celebrations, but also there are some segment of funds that can be used for the public library for the purchase of passes. I want to acknowledge how much money we received from this trust. I think, one, we're very appreciative of it, but with this donation, in addition to the $39,432 donation, we have about a little over $350,000 coming from this trust that we can use for these purposes. So it's worth acknowledging and thanking that family for their contribution to the town.
I agree. I will take
So-
a motion.
So I guess it begs the question at some point, since library's in that thing, could any of those monies be used for a short?
The library funding is specifically used for the purchase of museum passes museum passes, and
Drive.
it outlines the Museum of Fine Arts, Gardner Museum, Aquarium, Museum of Science. So
Okay.
it's specifically outlined in the trust.
Sorry, I didn't see
We're
that.
gonna move to a motion.
To refer to budget and finance?
Correct.
And finance.
I'll make that.
Council Lindy makes that motion.
Second.
Anybody seconded by Councilor Perry. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to proposed ordinance D FY 26-017, amend Part 2 Administrative Code, Chapter 1, Article 3, multiple member appointive bodies. And this would be referred to rules and procedure. Anything additional, Councilor McGrath?
From being in the rules and procedures, we started going through the charter, and when I was looking at committees, they should be consistent with 3. The only one that cannot be is the cultural council. By state law, it has to be 2, and a lot of them didn't say who appointed their members, so I added appointed by the town manager.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to refer.
Motion. Second.
Motion made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Spigot to refer to rules and procedure. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to proposed zoning ordinance D FY 26-018, zoning ordinance to amend words pertaining to town council. I will take a motion to refer to planning board and CEDC.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Spigot, seconded by Councilor Perry. Anything additional, Councilor McGrath?
I've been reading the zoning laws because we're looking at changing the phone-based code, and I noticed the town council in there. I do not believe in our charter that the town council is responsible for making amendments or repealing laws. Nowhere in the town charter does it state the town council should issue special permits or rendering advisory reviews and comments on the site plans. I sent this to the town attorney to review it, and it was agreed that they should be striked out.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Question.
Let's take a motion to refer in a second, and then we can have discussion, Council Allenberg, if that's.
Motion
We
to-
already did that.
Oh, we did that.
Did we for this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, sorry, Council Allenberg, go ahead.
He's getting tired.
There has also been discussion that the committees themselves are not really defined as to what their work is. And I think that would be helpful to add in, as well as the membership and all this other stuff. And I think that that should be included in the charter amendments to rules and procedure. And the second thing is water impact studies.
Councilor Allenberg, this doesn't have anything to do with this particular zoning ordinance, but if that's something you'd like to bring up, we can do that, just to keep it moving.
Okay, I just think we need to put in water impact studies as something that the planning board needs to do.
Yeah, and I believe Councilor Kennedy is working on that legislation as well.
Okay.
Any additional discussion on this piece? Okay, all those in favor of further referring?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that concludes our new business, and we will move to O, citizens' comments. Due to Massachusetts open meeting law requirements, discussions will not take place during public comment periods, and anyone may comment for up to 3 minutes. And just a reminder to please state your name and address. You do have 3 minutes, but please note that the meeting is only extended another 14 minutes, so.
I'll do it in 3.5. Janet Hanson, Pleasant Street. As far as the Proposition 2.5 that Councilor Murphy, you mentioned, I personally, it failed because of our budget, for our personal budgets, but it also, at the time, people didn't trust where the money was going. So there was a lot to it. Plus, they put so much into that. if they had divided it up, as much as I wouldn't want to, but if they did Proposition 2.5, this for the school, would you support this? Would you support that? You might have at least gotten one of them, but it was too much. So it wasn't just because we didn't, it was because of our personal pocketbooks, but we didn't trust the use. So, but, Councilor Spino, you mentioned about the aquifer, the NIP. I have people you could talk to if you don't already know, but Rainham has the aquifer in that area, and it does affect Claremont's thing, so I'm not even going to get into that, but it's Rainham aquifer. I was wondering if we could go back to, it used to be, in the old days, you could, if you had a well, you were required to have a sign on your property that you had a well. That way people would know if you're watering the lawn, you know, they don't have to call the water police. But they got away from that, and I would suggest that we do it. It can't be a homemade sign, because anybody could put up a sign, but it should be a sign to say, I have well water. That way, people won't be looking at each other like, are you doing something wrong? And it would help anybody driving by to not have to stop. So I would suggest if we could go back to doing that. We all have to work together to not use our water. We are all affected by the shortage. So we all need to do our best to reduce water only necessary, as I had mentioned earlier. We need to do a moratorium. We need to get this fixed before we can continue on. And I think we need to look at the college a little more for their water usage. And I am concerned about fires. I mean, everybody should be concerned about a fire, not whether or not they can fill their swimming pool and not whether or not they can do their lawn. Like I said, I'm grateful I don't have to mow my lawn. Well, I do, but I haven't done it, so it's still long. I would suggest instead of 3 minutes, go to 5 minutes for comments, but a hard 5 minutes, whereas at 3 minutes, you're a little, you know, if we go over a smidgen, but if it's 5 minutes, boom, drop the floor or whatever. And for notification of people, for if you're opening up 10B, why can't you do a reverse 911 like you did for the emergency? We're opening up 10B, do a reverse for that. That would get everybody. 3
Right,
minutes
Ms. Hanson, that's your hard 3 minutes.
I said hard 5 minutes. And that's and I'm not sure why they would have to be overtime for people to drive around, you know, it should be part of what they do, but a reverse 911, and I guess that's all I have time for, so, but thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good evening, Town Council. My name is John Savageau, resident at 165 Pratt Lane. Earlier tonight, I sent an email. I wanted to come and try to deliver that in person since I could make it after my prior commitments. My name is John Savageau. I'm a resident of 165. I'm going to skip there. I wanted to submit a note to express my support and for continued and adequate funding for the Bridgewater Public Library, particularly from a recreational standpoint. Currently, the town of Bridgewater does not have a strong town-led recreational program for families outside of the Bridgewater-Raynham School District's base program. As many families know, the base program fills up almost immediately every single year. This leaves limited options for those seeking additional accessible programming for their children. In the absence of a comprehensive town-run recreational program, the Bridgewater Public Library plays a vital role in filling this gap. The library provides a wide range of enriching, engaging, and affordable recreational activities for families. These programs offer residents opportunities to participate in meaningful experiences at little to no cost, which is especially important for many households in our community. Reducing or failing to maintain proper funding for the library would significantly impact families who rely on these programs. The loss of access, particularly through reduced hours, would limit opportunities for our children and families to engage in safe educational and recreational activities. I strongly urge the town to explore ways to ensure the library remains fully funded, including maintaining extended hours such as Fridays and Saturdays. Doing so will allow the library to continue to serve as a cornerstone of the recreation and community in the life of Bridgewater. Thank you for your time and for your consideration. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to councilor comments. Being mindful there are now 8 minutes left in the meeting. We'll start with Councilor McGrath.
Thank you, Mr. President. It was Saturday, I believe it was Saturday. I attended a ceremony at the new fire station. They moved their monument to the fire station. It didn't cost the town any money. Residents have been asking about that. And some of the firefighters have gotten badges, or I don't know, pins, because some of them have served from 10 to 30 years in our town. And then I attended the retiring of the flags. We burned them, and the Boy Scouts really helped the veterans a lot. The Boy Scouts really do a lot in this town. They help with the flags, placing at the cemeteries and stuff. They're a very active group. Thank you.
I'm not going to repeat the same thing. I was at those two events, and I also had the honor, in the absence of the president, to read our Juneteenth proclamation at the library the other day. That was a wonderful event. Young students from Bridgewater Rainham Regional High School were there, and they were just very impressive. Good news is those columns are going to happen because they're in the back parking lot ready to go, and we'll see the front of the library look good again. I just want to remind people, it's nice, very nice that you announced in the president's comments about the donation to the 4th of July. 4th of July committee, as was reported, was kind of at a shortfall for funding. Every Monday night at Barrett's, there's an opportunity to help them. They even have a drink that you can buy for $14, and $1 goes to the 4th of July committee. They're selling T-shirts, I think, at Prisco's and at Bridgewater Bagel, and I think if you contact the committee, you can get them. It's already around the corner that it's happening. So, long meeting tonight. I'm not going to prolong it anymore. Thank you.
I just know if you're announcing me or not. Thank you. Echo the sentiments that the prior council's made. Unfortunately, I was unable to make those events on Sunday. However, I did attend the Juneteenth celebration on Saturday, and the group put on another great event this year, and the weather was quite cooperative, and I hope they got a good turnout overall for the day. And in general, just again, I want to echo President Murphy's sentiments as he was talking about our budget this year and how razor thin it is, and the FY28 budget is going to be an even worse situation. So we're doing the best we can to provide the services as was stated across the board, but it is getting to a point where as a town, we're feeling the pain of what the non-passage of an override before is doing to us now. So if we want to have those services going forward, especially in the next fiscal year, whether it be the library, the senior center, our schools in general, we're going to have to strongly consider this the next time an override is brought on up, or the FY28 budget is going to be even more devastating than what we're dealing with now in FY27, especially when it comes probably to public safety. So I guess I just wanted to echo the president's sentiments and let everyone know that we're doing the best we can to provide the services across the board that we can, but it's a tough fiscal year. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Trocchio.
Dr. Perry, that was such a, inspiring speech that really just uplifted my spirits. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Could you be any? So this Thursday, June 18th, at, from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m., the VFW is hosting a indoor golf tournament located at the 925 Bedford Street. It's open to the public. If you're a veteran, I think it would be a good event for you to come, show up, talk to other veterans. I believe there is a cash bar at the event. Bring your clubs and you can play around a golf. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Ellenberg?
No one else is giving a speech, huh? Okay, I wanted to thank the CPA for your presentation. Your presentation was excellent, provides a lot of information, and I will be studying it further, particularly as it relates to townhouse. So thank you for that. I agree that lawn signs for personal wells would be a good idea. And I don't know if something like that could be organized with a department in the town that knows which houses have private wells. Just an inquiry about that. And lastly, I think the gift that we got for the library will be used for the library. And lastly, I'd be happy to work on a library fundraiser if such a thing is organized by Friends of the Library. That's it.
Thank you. Councilor Spigot?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, colleagues, for your affirmative vote tonight on the Learn resolution. It means a lot, not just for me as a person who's used the library, who basically grew up in those bookcases, reading books like a ravenous reader. But I appreciate having been brought in on the other part of it to help amend it with Councilor Lindy and Councilor Trocchio. I believe that having a cooperative nature to our work is vitally important. And then by extension, the cooperation and input from our neighbors and friends in town. As Councilor Lindy alluded to, a lot of folks have reached out to us through email, and I want to share my appreciation of that to residents. It's something vitally important to me as a legislator to have that input. But most importantly, those that provide the opposing view, I don't see it as an opposition. I see it as an opportunity for growth and maybe a different discussion. Case in point, I had an email from a resident that was in opposition to it. They sent me the email knowing that I was a co-sponsor of the legislation and one of the first writers of one of the two resolutions. But I indicated to them that the resolutions are a greater sign of our need to work more closely together as a council, with the town manager, with the finance committee in a more refined way to try to find better solutions than having to constantly come back to the table and offer up resolutions. Our goal for the long term should be a prudent course of action that allows us to fund without having to have to come back all the time for resolutions. And I can certainly tell you right now, I'm going to telegraph it. I'm going to be writing a resolution for the senior center because they're also being disadvantaged in the FY27 budget. And I think that was something that may not have necessarily risen to the conversation at our level, but it is something I've heard from neighbors and friends about, and I feel that that's important to also bring forward. So that is something I'm going to be doing. But in general, I feel like right now I think I'm almost 10 weeks into doing this as a counselor, and I want to express to folks that please keep reaching out, at least to myself and my colleagues, because it does help us understand what's going on. And I hope that in my response to all of you that I am at least being effective in sharing what I can, what knowledge I have, and if I don't have an answer, I can at least go back to it and get it for you. So with that, Mr. President, I just want to tell folks I'm going to try to keep doing what I can to help out folks and try to make things a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Hunt?
Can I make a motion to allow the last three counselors to finish their remarks and move for 11:10?
Second.
Thanks, Councilor Lindy. I'm just gonna keep moving along here, and if you need to file an open meeting violation against me, you do so. Councilor, on anything?
Not really. I'm exhausted. But thanks for the meeting. This town is wonderful. I'm glad for the good things. I'm sad for the sad things. I wish we could get working and get us the money that we need to do the things we need to do. That'd be nice.
Councilor Kennedy?
Thanks to everyone who stays till the end. Have a good night.
I echo those sentiments and echo the sentiments to get out and support the 4th of July committee. They're doing some hard work and they've done already some amazing work. And so please get out and support that so we can have another great event. But thank you again for everybody that attended tonight's meeting. Thank you all.
Motion to go home.
Second?
Motion made and seconded by Councilor Spagona. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Eleven on the nose. 11 on the nose.
I couldn't help myself. I was like,
I'm the bringer of the light.
you know what it is? You're